Newton, the way you spin that story round. Always sharp, just like a tack when you're tracking the price of the dollar and pound. Ow! But drop the narrative, that thing that you inherited. Your history homos chariot just pulled up outside. Scott, William, Patrick on the scene, they're breaking up the subroutine. Something's crackling in your brain, and K-Ultra make you go insane. Hey, don't you know we're only on the case for a good time, baby? Took a rose pill, now I'm reading these books for a long time, baby.
3, 2, 1. And we're live. Welcome back to the show. Joining Patrick and I this week is one of my most favorite people to speak with, probably top 10 all told. And also, as a matter of fact, is the most common guest on the History Homos podcast. Welcome back to the show, Bobby Tamburro.
God, what an honor. Of all the things you can do in a career, that's a place I want to hold, to be honest.
It's at the History Homos top favorite guest
Absolutely.
spot.
Yeah, hey, top 10. I don't want to push my luck. You know, if you get to the top 5, that's when people start to find reasons to hate.
So true. And by the way, I don't want to also just say that it's just a personal favorite thing. There are statistics with which our show keeps like all the rankings and stuff, and several
9%.
of your episodes, several of your episodes are within the top 20, and one is in the top 10.
Jesus, what a place to be.
Scott has those poor AI angels slaving away at these numbers.
Yeah, the Indians are just pressing play over and over again on a million of those banks.
I've got a quant.
Listening to more racist podcasts.
But Bobby, I think possibly the reason to attribute your success to the popularity of your episodes online would be your choice of topic, of course. And this week, you did not let us down again.
Thank you.
And so this week, I remember we deliberated a little bit on this, but what was the push for you to offer this idea for the episode?
Honestly, it feels like with everything going on in the news right now, there's something they're trying to hide from us. And you know what we haven't heard a lot about lately? Antarctica.
Fucking true. And might I add,
I don't even know it's still there.
I don't know if it ever existed. That's the problem with this whole thing.
They blew it up.
You maniacs. So I want to say this, by the way, also this is an episode that I have been wanting to do for at least 2 years, if not more. But at the time, I was offering or suggesting it repeatedly was while William was booking the show. So there was no hope for me to get it.
Oh, that makes complete and total sense. Yeah. Can't imagine why William wanted to restrict the conversations about Antarctica and who found it.
True. You know what? You got a point there now. But I will say that now that I have investigated it, and I don't want to bury the lead here and just go straight into the schizo realm, but I will say that after having reviewed the topic, which is, although you know this because you downloaded the episode, the heroic age of Antarctic exploration, I will say that this was a very revelatory experience for me. However, not the way you might think.
Really?
Now you're obviously going to say, well, Scott, have you decided finally you're going to come off the fence on the side of ball Earth or flat Earth? And no, actually, I will say I have kind of come off the fence on the side of ball. I'm globe-tard. I'm permanently globe-tarded because of this book. And it's kind of cleared up all my misconceptions about Antarctica, to be honest with you.
You're like Nicholson at the end of Cuckoo Nest. You're just laying in the bed, blank eyes, staring up, accepting the ball. And that's fine, Scott. Yeah. Real quick, though, folks must be aware that Bobby has been, doing a wonderful Roman series with us here. It spanned years. This is the one place where Rome never went.
Yeah, just about.
This is as far from Rome as possible. As far
Is
as
it though?
who knows? Listen, I
Did
mean,
we? I'm not willing to 100% say the Roman Empire didn't get here, based on some of the things I think we're going to talk about a little later.
the
Great.
Nazis got there.
Okay.
Why couldn't
I
the
would
Romans
love
get
for you
there?
to walk me through this one because you know I obviously, like all males, think about the Roman Empire daily.
Mm,
Absolutely.
mm.
I You asked me earlier what got me into it. Honestly, I was re-listening to the story of Robert Byrd, which we are going to get into later. And one of the tangential spin-offs there was the Romans got there first. And that's how they got the power to conquer the Roman Empire. And then he provided it again for the Germans. And there was a lot of parallels. That's why Hitler was pushing so hard for the Roman parallels, was because these Aryan aliens told him to.
Oh
Nice.
yeah. So I assume you come down firmly on the side of Hitler had UFOs and Hollow Earth, I would imagine, comes into play somewhere as well.
Who said had? I'm not above a time travel theory where he was like, if
Good
we just
point.
give the Earth a couple, I don't know, say 80 years, most of the people will see what I see. I just got to time travel 83 and a half years into the future.
He's a walk-in, yeah, or he's a
Just
walkout,
boom.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Um,
I mean, I'm fine with that. That's definitely a plausibility. So I will say this is that a very funny character who came into play in this story, who is I want to say his name was Williams or something, but he was the surgeon of the Discovery and Terra Nova voyages, and he was a avowed eugenicist.
Yes.
And also, I thought it was really funny that he was saying, "Oh, how nice it will be when in the future time the climate will have changed and Antarctica will be able to be settled by the white race."
Was he also the same guy who was like, they did have some good jokes, though? I didn't mind the jokes.
Yes.
oh yeah. What was that?
Well,
Yeah,
they had a whole.
I have the quote. I don't want to. I don't
Yeah,
know
let's
why.
not
I
get
We'll,
ahead
we'll
of
talk about it
ourselves.
later. We'll talk about
All
when
right.
it's in its appropriate time. I know what you guys are getting at here.
As a time
The
traveler,
performance, yeah.
it's always the appropriate time as a time traveler.
True, true, true.
Um, what? So if we're talking Romans and Antarctica and all this business, Bobby, are you familiar with Hitler's his Jewish magician like friend therapist Eric von Hanussen?
No.
Eric Jan Hanussen, Austrian publicist, charlatan, clairvoyant performer, active in Weimar Republic, and instructed
You're telling me this guy's a charlatan?
instructed Adolf Hitler in performance and the achievement of dramatic effect, and for treating Hitler during his depression and his psychosomatic blindness episode, hysterical blindness, I guess it's called. That's a very
Amazing.
funny, yeah. So, what a bunch of characters.
It's so true. Yeah, you have brought that guy up to me before, but
Ah, I can't.
that deserves its own investigation,
Yeah, Bobby,
We
obviously.
come
should
back
write a
for that.
sitcom about that.
Yes, Hitler's best friend who's Jewish.
Hitler, Hitler, you gotta come outside.
Hitler, they're
There's a
saying
whole
you're
crowd
doing
of people.
crazy things.
There's a whole crowd of people out there. They're looking for you.
They're painting you out to be a real unreasonable guy, Hitler.
We're living in a society, Jews. Anyway, so the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. Now, it's called at the time that it was happening. It was not referred to as the heroic era of. They weren't like, and behold, the dawn of the heroic era of Antarctic exploration. This is a retroactive, almost pejorative name, honestly, because it's kind of characterized by them doing the wrong things,
Yeah.
essentially.
I'd like to call it the anheroic period.
Yeah, it was a bit and heroic too for the old heads, by the way.
The-
Yeah.
the buffoonish age of Antarctic
Yeah,
exploration.
that's not a
Um,
bad descriptor either, by the way. Now, it is largely characterized by a practice known as man hauling.
yeah, hell yeah, brother.
uh, which was not only a so it was basically the idea. So you're all familiar with dog
Keel hauling.
sleds,
Oh,
that too,
no.
but that's somewhat related, I would
This is
imagine.
arguably better than that, at
Yes,
least.
yeah, it's a little better than keel hauling, yeah. Um, but yeah, so you're familiar with dog sledding. Dog sledging is another
Hmm.
way to refer to, or having a dogs pull a sledge throughout through Arctic exploration. In fact, Robert Peary, the American explorer who eventually was the one to lay claim to having been the first to reach the North Pole, utilized these dogs to extreme effect. It worked. Um, so, arguably, that wasn't part of the heroic era of Arctic exploration. But so the way, but throughout the, so it's basically era this begins, we can really pinpoint this as the end of the Napoleonic Wars. Britain is now the supreme power on the ocean, and they have an extreme glut of boats with which to do nothing with because they've supplanted the French and the Spanish for naval supremacy globally speaking, and this is the era in which is like the classic period in British imperial history where the sun never sets on the British Empire and it enjoys its like sort of golden age under Queen Victoria.
That
And
Navy wasn't very helpful during the Boer Wars, was it?
No, it was not. In fact,
They
that
deemed
does
us
come
good.
into play. Which, by the way, that corner, I don't want to like bury the lead here or anything, but when I was reading through this book and like learning all these characters, I'm going doing double takes, triple takes, because I'm going, holy shit, all these characters are like huge figures and just some small overlaps, but some big overlaps with the Cecil Rhodes Milner group,
Hmm.
like milieu. And at the very end, well, I don't want to blow the fucking wad at the end, but at the very end, you'll see some really big players in it utilizing the events that would transpire for propaganda. Um, so I thought that was really interesting to the extent that the people who are behind this were explicitly sort of they had like a Quiglian mindset, if you get what I'm saying, Patrick,
Hmm.
where they
Hmm.
thought, okay, we're now top dogs global. Let's break that down. The British, particularly extreme elements within the British Foreign Office, were of the mind that now that they're the top dogs on the global stage, they must continue growing and achieving, or else they're doomed to be supplanted themselves. Now, and again, Carol Quigley, like expresses like the worldview that he was expressed by these very same people at Chatham House, a think tank, the very first think tank, by the way. Um, and that's why he put in his book Tragedy and Hope, basically that this is the worldview, and in doing so, they decided since they were pretty much had primacy globally speaking on the colonial scale, they're like, well, we should keep doing shit like this. And the way this manifested, and at least in part, was through this idea of scientific and explorational mastery of the globe, you know?
Hmm.
Just in case you need an idea of how pompous they were, part of the Royal Geographical Society's orders of who could be on their ship was everybody had to have sound teeth because they believed having bad teeth during the winter could lead to mental instability. So imagine that the British are only allowing people with sound teeth.
That is an
The
immensely high, or maybe the standards were actually very low in light of the British.
the 1% of the 1%, the absolute cream of the crop of the British,
Yeah.
population. Uh,
That's funny as hell, by the way. I didn't
What?
know. I didn't
That's an
hear that
absurd.
detail. That's some Freud ass fucking medicine, by the way.
That's
You
Yeah.
like
know what I mean?
who
That's
was
from
it?
the
This chick keeps masturbating. Let's give her a nose job.
and now we've got the nose rings.
Yeah,
Not not for any, therapeutic reasons. It's just she's just tough to look at.
true.
Then
Yeah.
we'll get to the cure. But who was the dude that wanted like a whole platoon of like 7 foot tall soldiers? Who was that? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Was he in this story, or are you saying it
No,
just in
no.
general? Okay, well,
There,
you got
there
to be
was
a
a
little more
guy.
specific. I mean,
Everybody.
yeah, I was
Who
gonna
doesn't
say
want just an
every
army of
general throughout
7-foot
history.
soldiers?
Yeah. But anyways, but this did somewhat become sort of in focus at the end of the Napoleonic Wars, and they first started to the first thing that happened was James Clark Ross essentially was sent. Well, James Cook, of course, in the 1600s, circumnavigated the world, and he noted he was the first person to make sight of any sort of landmass in the South, and and then in 1830s. James Clark Ross was sent on the Ross voyage to investigate this, and it was quite explicitly almost like a colonial expedition because they were going there while they had a number of different scientific aims. For instance, they were like setting up these magnetic stations to figure out
Mm.
like where the magnetic South Pole was. Um, but also it was very explicitly like, can we find anything good down there to have, essentially?
Yeah.
And but what he found was extremely disconcerting, because he described what could only be described as a 30 3 maybe 300-foot tall ice wall surrounding the edge
Alarms
of.
are ringing.
Yeah, that's a
Bells
little
are
weird.
ringing. What?
Now the interesting thing, by the way, is that subsequently to this voyage, everyone purposely changes the nomenclature to be ice barrier.
But that's not what he called it. He
He
very
insisted on
explicitly.
the word wall. Yes.
And
um,
yeah, it was something ridiculous, like 300 foot and how many miles in each direction?
well, you can look at still on a map. He did discover what is now known as the Ross Sea because it was named after him, of course. Um, and it does go a long fucking way. And the funny thing was is that he actually happened to he happened to come up on Antarctica right at this area where there's a massive ice like flow because there's like a big inlet.
Mm.
And it looks like it just goes on forever. But then if you did follow it, which he couldn't actually because he almost got smashed into the ice wall, by the way. And by the way, I should say this is 1830. This is before they barely had fucking any sort of reinforcement of the ship. This is like a fully wooden
Mhm.
ship.
Mhm.
And it was like extremely risky to be in these gigantic ice flows, by the way. Uh but he never got far enough to find where there was land again, obviously.
W-
Or did he? That's the
oh,
real question.
I'm still caught up on the question of did they want them to have teeth so that they could chatter when it was cold?
It's possible. That
Uh,
could be part of it.
that way, if someone gets lost, you can still hear them, their teeth chattering. Oh my God. Either way, this ice wall is not it's not to be overlooked. It literally can't
Sure,
be.
I
It's
mean
it's
you can. I
enormous,
mean
but
you can go like it. There's some good photos of it from today, but for the
mm,
record, and again, I feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle here with the the flat Earth stuff because
I mean, I was just looking it up on Grok and said, like, what's the likelihood of when sailing to Antarctica the first time hitting that particular area where you'd see a 300-foot wall? And it says there's a 0% chance. It says
well
it's
now because
100%
of
open and
global
anybody can
warming.
approach it. So it's just weird. It seems like there's a cover up going. They don't want us to see this wall, Scott.
ask Rock what are the odds of me bumping into Bobby in a gas station and
Fucking zero, by the way. Yeah,
That was
zero
ridiculous.
Oh
I
yeah,
was likelier to see him in Antarctica than where I found him.
Literally.
It's absurd.
Now, Bobby, I wanted to ask you, if you don't have to be specific or anything, but I wanted to ask, what was Patrick buying at Sheets? Was it now? Let me guess. Was it multiple energy drinks, a small water, and several tobacco products?
So I didn't get to the point in the
That's so-
transaction where he would get the tobacco product, so I can't confirm or deny. He did not have any energy drinks. He did have a small water, and yeah, maybe a few other items we don't have to get
What are, you,
into.
what are you guys putting on me? Talking about like I'm walking around with
A
these.
few items we don't have to get into. Now, that's pretty
Yeah.
pregnant.
What-
It's like, what is he
what-
talking? What are you talking about? Like fucking Magnum condoms and bananas or something?
Why are you
Like,
putting all this shame on my name, man? Like I got these petite waters. I'm walking around with petite waters and
Other
condoms.
products.
Scott,
It
you
wasn't
put that on me?
condoms. You know, just
God,
other
no.
fun stuff. I
that's
think
where
it was
my
like
mind went when you
I
said
think it was
we don't
like a
have to go
schmegel.
into it.
I think it was like a schmegel.
I think I
Are you
got it.
familiar?
And actually,
Like
yeah,
Gollum?
you're bringing me no.
Schmegel,
Yeah,
like Gollum.
give me a Gollum. I want a extra
Sheets
cheese.
bagel.
It was two actually, two enormous overstacked sandwiches and probably some beverages. Scott, you're not wrong, probably. Maybe a lighter. Yeah.
Okay,
Either way,
fair enough.
listen,
You're off the hook. You're off the hook.
I wasn't doing anything crazy. I wasn't buying
But he
grain
was getting
alcohol and
bagels,
mixing
so
it
that's
with
this is what Bobby was trying to step over without revealing about Patrick is that he was in his private life buying bagels for himself to eat.
Multiple.
I
Patrick, the
gave that up
Portuguese are
myself, actually.
not beating, or the Portuguese are not beating the Converso allegations today.
You'll be hearing from my lawyer, Scott.
I'm sure. Yeah, it ends in EIRA. His last name too, by the way.
Oh, I figured he was one of the three.
Yeah.
Listen, how many hundreds of years until we can live this down?
Took you 40 to get through a
3,000,
desert.
yeah, 3,000, yeah. All right. Anyway, let's go back to the action because there's a lot to cover. But yeah, the Ross voyage was pretty interesting. They named everything after themselves. I also want to say this is within a larger context of this is the era in which the British Empire and the military and private citizens under the auspices of various universities and such from the British mainland going off in Africa. This is where they discovered the source of the Nile in Lake Victoria. And by the way, a lot of daring, crazy expeditions all across the planet, culminating in like the situation in which like there's that guy who discovered the source of the Nile. He like then went on to discover that you could just circumnavigate Africa via rivers, leading to the whole Heart of Darkness situation. By the way, what sometimes you got to ask yourself, British Empire. Sometimes it's not can I do it? It's should I do it?
Correct. Correct. Yeah, no, and that's never come. Well, the only time someone asks, should we do this is when they get to the economic aspect of the venture. Does it will it have any returns? And yeah, they were pretty scrupulous in some senses, but
that's true. Yeah.
Otherwise, shit, you'd find any Chilean billionaire, millionaire to float you a few bucks on a tugboat and you can disappear into the mist for fame and glory. Do you think they had a buoy set up at these places where you could write your name on it and claim it? Just there, ready to go? Or would that...
We're going to get into my favorite way of proving you claim something in a minute.
Oh, I like
Which
this.
is?
Okay.
How a Mudson did it.
Oh,
Like, hey,
yeah.
Hey, here's my balls.
Wait, did he show his balls or something in the photo?
No, but just basically like, hey, in case there's any dispute, congrats on making it. You're about 35 days too late. Like, I know you put all this effort in. He didn't even know you were in a contest that you lost.
Didn't he wait for them for a while? Didn't he hang out? Yeah.
Well, no, they knew that they were there. Well, we're jumping way ahead. We'll save that. It's all good. But anyway, Sir Clements Robert Markham became an influential figure within the Royal Geographical Society, which is the organization that sent the guy who Dr. Livingston, the guy who found the source of the Nile, I should mention. But Sir Clements Markham was a gay man, a
A
fat, gay,
game,
posh man,
a
English
game
man.
man, like he liked hunting and checkers.
Well, I
Scott,
just
is
mean he
that?
was British.
Oh, a gay man. Oh, I got
Yes,
you.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Now you're on the
I didn't know
trolley.
what you meant. Then you said British.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But no, he was obviously take this with a grain of salt because everyone we're going to talk about is like on the borderline of gay because we're talking about British seamen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the men who love it.
Now,
Yeah.
Scott, can I expand on your allegations against this guy real
Please,
quick?
what are the facts on the ground?
So one of my favorite things is they call it the Markham Uranian
Yo.
circle theory. And the circle is around this guy and whispered rumors about his personal motives in selecting young naval officers for the discovery and subsequent Antarctic expeditions.
Mm.
He had a fascination with Greek love, meaning affectional or erotic admiration between older men and beautiful younger men. He allegedly surrounded himself with a group of like minded men, sometimes called the Uranian Circle, drawing on the Victorian era subcultures. The traits that they looked for is who he promoted for polar leadership, he chose for the Antarctic service, and who was intentionally placed together on expeditions so they could continue the Uranian Circle amongst their men. What they looked for was physical beauty, youthfulness, emotional pliability, and personal charisma.
No, that's very funny you say that because I heard that guy named Cherry Brandon or something. I can't remember the name of his guy was. That was his last name. It's like a hyphenated name. But this guy described Captain Robert Scott as being the most easy to tears man I have ever encountered in my entire life. And yeah. It also seemed like, yeah, charismatic as well. Also, I mean, it seems like everyone who wrote about him posthumously had nothing but nice things to say about him, except when they were pissed at him.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, they're like, "God damn, that beautiful bastard was being dumb."
Yeah.
Just
But yeah,
weeping
there's
all the
plenty of
time.
criticisms we could level at him, of course. But yeah, no, I think there's something to this. I actually legitimately think that any of these royal societies are gay as fuck, like to put it lightly. And yeah, they all have fairly Freemasonic overtones, frankly, when they have a society where there's initiation and stuff like that. I'm not saying that they're direct overlap or anything, but it's got like sort of the same gay little club trappings, if you get what I'm saying.
There, yeah, and there hardly have to be any actual overlaps in the practice or ornamentate whatever.
Yeah, of
It
course. Yeah.
really just has to be the overlap in members and
Yeah.
their tacit, unspoken prerogatives or
Yeah, it's worth mentioning here that the Milner or while Cecil Rhodes was in charge of the group of conspirators, he was insistent that everybody fucking be gay, and one guy got married and he kicked him out of the group.
that man, lucky duck, does
Yeah.
not know how lucky he was.
I don't know. These guys are the ones with their hands on the wheels of power.
And
Well,
the
at least
cocks of fucking Rhodes and
That's true. Yeah.
Markham.
Yeah, he's got his hands on his wife's hip. That's pretty good.
No, I think
Hell yeah.
we'll circle back to this Uranian circle theory in a little bit because it comes up at another point in our story.
Gotcha. So after the success of the Ross ice wall discovery, which by the way, they also they were the first ones to set foot on an island. So they actually didn't set foot on the mainland of Antarctica. And in fact, Ross himself surmised that it was actually an archipelago of islands, possibly volcanic islands, because he did note two volcanoes, one really active volcano and one sort of a crater of a volcano, which he named Mount Erebus and Mount Terror, named after the two boats on the voyage that they had taken. And Mount Erebus is today, I believe, an active volcano, actually. And being that he saw this, he assumed that the entire Antarctic region it was a volcanic archipelago. Now, interestingly enough, not to jump ahead here, during the I believe the not the Discovery, the Terra Nova voyage, Scott's Terra Nova voyage, they did do geological surveys there, and they discovered that it is in fact, well, first of all, there was the obvious fact that there's a continental shelf leading up to the continental landmass of Antarctica, meaning it is a continent and not just a volcanic island, which is usually just straight up, like the volcano comes straight up out of the ground, whereas Antarctica has like a nice shelf where it drops off, like goes like this, and then it drops off, and it's like a big plateau surrounding the landmass.
Mm.
But he can be forgiven for the not realizing, because he himself only set foot on an island which I think was volcanic, and from it was a result of like magma overspill of Mount Erebus. So that's a little bit of background on the Ross voyage. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I also just think the most interesting thing about it is that it's so early. 18 fucking 30, and these guys are floating around in the shitty wooden boats.
Yeah,
And
somebody should have told the Erebus and the Terror to go back home, because that's a whole story in itself. Those
well, I
poor
was gonna
guys,
say,
yeah.
we could just mention that they thought this is great. We did so good. Let's go to the North Pole. Actually, no, I think what they did was they were trying to find the Northwest Passage. But
Yep.
the Erebus and the Terror were like a complete loss. Like maybe one guy survived when they went north to the Northwest Passage. It's a whole episode,
That's the
honestly, just that.
Franklin expedition.
That's the
right?
Franklin Search. Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. Yeah. So
Hmm.
it
Now,
was an expedition called the Franklin Search, in which they were trying to find the Northwest Passage from the North Atlantic to say China or North Russia.
and the only reason why I'll say it's kind of important is a good way to raise funding for your expedition if you couldn't get it through the RGS or from the monarchs of the time was to
Right.
go to Franklin's widow, who had a ton of money from the situation, and say, hey, we're going to lead an expedition to go look for your husband. And she would
Nice.
pay for a polar expedition, which is going to come up with one of our characters in a little bit.
Righteous. Well, I was gonna say Amundsen is the guy who finally actually succeeded in finding the Northwest Passage, although he did so sort of standing on the shoulders of giants, is kind of what the book led me to understand, essentially, which was that it had been decades of various British explorers mapping and charting out the area without ever having finally completed the voyage. And he sort of just utilized a pastiche of all of their work in order to quickly just skate through the obstacles and be the first to do so.
So, not to be too much of a Union Jack waiver here, but it's been a minute since I've studied the Franklin expedition, but I do believe there were two men who went wandering trying to find civilization and actually walked through the initial passage and first set foot technically on the other side. So they were the first ones to die getting across the passage, but they made it.
True.
And at least Amundsen did the right thing at that point and allowed them to call it not the Amundsen passage. He was like, all right,
Yes.
you boys died enough. You can have this one. I've made you eat my ass for 3 decades now.
Yes, he's an interesting character because he is he's like a troll, like almost
He's my
like
favorite character, dude. He's a jock amongst a bunch of nerds.
Yeah.
well, those guys are all gay, and he was just like probably like like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna try to do a Norwegian accent, but probably just like yeah, Chad versus their virgin,
Exactly.
like
Yeah. No, you have to study the ecology.
No,
Ecology
you're
just
going
flag,
about it
bitch.
all wrong. Roald, you're supposed to spend months doing stupid gay research and pulling each other's packers.
Where are you
we
gonna
are-
suck your friend's dick if you're marching the whole time?
We were going too fast. We had no time to stop for.
Spanish.
Oh, fucking hell.
We'll get to him. He's awesome. He's the man.
Well, I was just gonna say he also was the first. Oh no, that's that other guy. Never mind. To circumnavigate Greenland. So that was his mentor or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, he is sort of continually fucking troll facing at the British Royal Geographical Society. We're pulling off stunts faster than they could.
He's Bugs Bunny. He's Bugs Bunny.
He is a bit of a Bugs Bunny trickster figure, as it were.
Dude, they seethe. I can't wait until we get to the award ceremony. That's so funny.
So then after that though, actually because of the Franklin voyages, I should say, it was a bit of a lull in interest in polar polar of any kind exploration, and it wasn't until later when the late 1890s when Clements Markham basically took over the Royal Geographic Society and induced I think he was actually a Milner guy. I got to look into this, but I'm pretty sure he was associated with the Milner group. But the other thing was this was on the wake of the Boer War. The Boer War had happened and had not ruined, but it was a really bad fucking PR move for the fucking British, particularly this like cabal of guys, because they had first of all, the first Boer War, they got their fucking asses kicked by this tiny population of people who were in fucking Dutch people, Dutch Huguenots, and there was in the entire Orange Free State and Voorstad or whatever, I can't remember what the names of the two places are, two independent republics. The entire population, man, woman, and children, was 100,000. And to win, the British Empire had to send 250,000 soldiers, fighting age men, to subjugate 100,000 civilians and 40,000 fighting men.
And that is kind of the story of the British Empire, though, if you think about it. Right?
Yeah, they're like
you had that guy who painted his face and shit. He held him off for a while. They had to send way too many guys. And you got the American Revolution. True. They had to send way too many guys.
Oh, you mean Mel Gibson?
Yeah. Mel Gibson.
Yeah, it was Mel Gibson, of course.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like Shaka Zulu or some shit. No, you're talking about Braveheart.
Well, Mel Gibson in both conflicts. Mel Gibson was there during the Scottish and the American
You're getting
Revolution.
what I was doing. Yeah. I couldn't think of any other ones with him.
Also, let's not forget about how he took on Humongous.
True. I also wish he was the last samurai because that'd be amazing.
That would have been good. I think he was in trouble with the you-know-who's at the time when that movie came out.
The Japanese.
The Japanese were not having him be star in The Last Samurai.
What do you mean? Jerry.
Now, before were you gonna talk about the Discovery, Scott? Expedition?
Yeah, that's where we're going next. Yeah, so the Discovery was the next voyage, but this was Robert Falcon Scott.
So part of what irritated the RGS was the Belgica expedition. Did we talk about that?
Oh,
so
right.
That was a multinational crew. It was Belgian, Norwegian, Romanian, Polish, and American. And notably, it wasn't British. One of the first people to do that was actually Roald Amundsen. Was one of the guys who stayed there for a year just to kind of get acclimated to the climate. And basically, they were like, we lost the Northwest Passage. It was alleged
to Roald Amundsen.
Yep. It was alleged that people were about to get to the North Pole. And so he made this big plea being like, it is Britain's duty to get to the South Pole first. That's why they set this Discovery expedition.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted
and by the way, also, it's worth mentioning that it was an American first to the North Pole. It was one of two Americans. We don't know which one it was. Neither of them does. Fucking idiots.
So I'm of the belief that it was actually neither. And do you know who the first person to technically reach the North Pole was?
Was it Roald Amundsen?
It was Roald Amundsen. Is the first person to confirm that he went to the North Pole.
I know. I did know who was going to be Roald Amundsen, but that also rules.
And just one of my favorite things from that Belgica expedition is the crew had too much weight, so they were really upset they had to toss a rotting taxidermied emu overboard. That was like one of their prized possessions.
Well, it's like a good luck charm.
But Mascot. As a way to make up for it, the chef was able to cook fermented penguin wine, which was made by soaking penguin liver in a sugar water and letting it ferment. So they got drunk off of penguin liver.
Oh,
that sounds horrific.
Fried in a little butter.
You know what, Scott? Maybe you got a little Brit in you if that you think that sounds horrific, but real Chads like me and Amundsen, That's just what we do. We just party.
Yeah,
Make wine
true.
out of anything,
Yeah, penguin
literally
liver, whatever.
anything.
I love the I speaking of the food, I love the shift from the early part of all of the voyages in their diaries. They'll be like, we've been dining on penguin liver and seal liver, and I gotta say it's pretty good with a little bit of butter and salt and flour. There's some things you could do, but by the end they're like, if I never eat this fucking shit again,
Yeah.
I will fucking you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
the other thing is they didn't understand. The thing they didn't understand was fucking scurvy. Well, they knew what scurvy was, and in fact, the British had known about scurvy since the 1600s, if I'm not mistaken, which is when they started drinking lime juice. Now, the problem with drinking lime juice in the polar regions is it freezes, and so they didn't bother bringing it because it wasn't
Well,
like,
lick it,
yeah, I mean,
idiots.
you'd think. But regardless, so they didn't realize that this was like their Achilles heel, honestly. They all almost died because they were all had fucking scurvy because
Because they didn't want to eat the
they hadn't
fruits and
discovered
veggies.
vitamin C yet. Hadn't discovered the concept of vitamin C yet.
So that was an issue for the British. You know who it
Right.
wasn't an issue for?
Chad.
Roald Amundsen.
Who learned on his initial voyage. One of the things he learned was that eating raw meat and cooked meat, the penguin meat, had vitamin C in it, which is what you needed. And he also
Right.
had another type of meat that was rich in vitamin C that he fed his men along the way that helped them get through.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
can't
I know
wait,
what it
dude.
is. Yeah. Roald Amundsen. Yeah, he is kind of Giga Chad now that I'm thinking about it.
He's just
Honestly,
a fucking man.
But yeah, what's it called? So they were all fucked up on this, and they did discover throughout the course of this is that meat was an important staple. Because again, I was by the way, I want to recommend the two main things that our two main pieces of study for me at least was the book An Empire of Ice by Christopher Larson, I believe.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Okay.
Jonathan Larson,
Uh-huh.
maybe. Okay.
Mhm.
And the other thing I watch is this is a great recommendation. I think I sent it to both of you, but I didn't get to see the whole thing because it's 5 hours long. But from the maker of the 70-part Chris Chan documentary series, Gino Samuel, is a 5 hour documentary series that's all in one video about just the Terra Nova expedition. And it is chock full of anecdotes that are just so fucking amazing. And there are a lot of them I knew from the book, but also there was a lot more that I hadn't heard that were very interesting and very well put together documentary. And also, again, it must be said, if you haven't seen the Chris Chan 70-part documentary series, I recommend
You should
checking that
also
out as
watch
well.
that.
Yeah.
Pause
If
this
we're-
and go do that.
Just go do that first. Before you finish this, go watch the entire Chris Chan documentary series.
If we're shouting out our sources, I got to shout out A Popular History of Unpopular Things. She broke down the Scott versus Amundsen race and really focused on my favorite part of the story. So,
Gotcha. Shouts out to all those people. Yeah, so
Shout out pears. Shout out limes.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think probably you're better off with something citrusy, right? Well, that's the thing. They were just barely surviving with even Amundsen was like running the fucking razor by just being like, yeah, we're banging down meat. I'm just saying but the fact that he was
because there's a fact about Amundsen's journey we got to get to when he's done, because it is
Okay.
the most Chad thing ever.
I'm pretty sure I know what it is gonna be, but
I don't want to cut you off.
yeah. No. So anyway, let's talk about the Discovery though. The Discovery voyage was actually fucking huge. They did so much on this. Although they didn't get that far. But when they got there, the first thing they did was blow up a fucking hot air balloon.
Yeah.
And they were the first to lay eyes on what would be known the Antarctic Plateau, which is the ice sheet that is accumulated on top of like the actual area that is geographically known as the South Pole. But basically, though, it's a place on which I want to say like 100 feet of ice is resting on top of terra firma, like actual ground.
Mhm.
And it's there because of weather conditions. The fact it just keeps melting and freezing, melting and freezing, melting and freezing continually, and and at the time when they went, it was shrinking, and they learned a lot of shit about the movement. It confirmed a lot of things that people were theorizing about, as it relates to glaciology in Europe, particularly in Europe, because there were a bunch of theories at the time as to how various mountains, hills, water, aquatic features that are all staples of the European landscape, that were for years theorized upon as to how they've been formed. And these guys in the Discovery, they went and they actually found a dry valley of land where there's no ice whatsoever, and they were able to not only just see dirt and like collect rock samples and stuff, which by the way also the other thing was that there was granite rock there, meaning that it was igneous. It was formed by it was actually like
Volcano.
the ground, a volcano, right? But also they discovered that there were artificial hills and rivers and rivulets that were caused by the various glacial. I'm not going to go totally into the way it was laying, but basically it was laying. It had caused this big dry valley, and then it was shifting off into the ice, into the water. And they discovered that it confirmed many of the modern mainstream views on how various features in Europe were formed.
They're controlling the topography. They got these machines. It controls it.
It's called glacial. It's called glacier technology.
They had horns that took down mountains. You're telling me they don't control the seismographs?
They're putting frickin' shit in the ice, turning it gay. Turning the ice into wine.
They're turning the ice gay. Well, yeah, but it's just like, you know how like when you look at meat and it's kind of got like rainbow.
Yeah.
You look at the ice and it's got like a rainbow sheet. The turn of the ice gay,
it.
dude.
Speaking of gay ice, that's part of why this Discovery mission kind of led to the future Scott missions, is it not?
Well, no, you mean the Shackleton mission, I assume you mean, because
No,
Shackleton was one of the lower ranking men on this Scott voyage. The Discovery is Scott, right? Isn't he? Isn't it?
Yes, it is Scott.
Okay.
And Wilson.
And Wilson, but also Shackleton was a lower ranking. No, because the way it was is that the British military was pissed off about the Franklin searches taking so many resources away from the Navy. Because remember, this is in a time where there's actually shit going on in the geopolitics. And also they're trying to get World War II started. Let's not forget about that whole or World War I started, I should say, which inevitably led to World War II. But anyway, the fact
you can't have the first one without the sequel. They kind of
right. They said it left it on a cliffhanger, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I was just gonna say though is they didn't want to give up too many.
Didn't leave us with any issues we're currently.
Well, that was a cliffhanger too, obviously.
Thanks to these.
That was the Empire Strikes Back middle of the trilogy.
Thanks to these fettuccine Alfredos that are causing problems in Antarctica. Oh, you can have it. You can have it.
But I was just gonna say is fuck, what was I gonna say? That's funny.
The Discovery was a mission. Scott and Wilson were running it. The Navy was upset.
The Navy was upset because they were taking too many naval officers, and although Clements Markham wanted it to be primarily a naval voyage, but they were forced to subcontract, I guess. And Ernest Shackleton was actually in the Merchant Marine. He wasn't in the Royal Navy. And so this introduced this new element of these scientists, solely scientists, non-military men being as part of the voyage. And also it arguably, not saying it did entirely, but arguably was the first sort of rift, was this idea that there was two kinds of classes of people on this voyage, as opposed to, say, the Ross voyage, which was 100%, or the Franklin voyages were also all 100% Navy men, seamen.
Now you could also look at it as the gay people versus the scientists as well, because well written note in Scott's journal was Wilson called Scott the man he made love to the best. So
Really
some love. There was some tensions going on there. A lot of people believe. Um,
interesting.
Shackleton collapsed at one point on the journey. So
Well, that was scurvy, but yes.
Wilson secretly wrote a medical note that it was heart degeneration and he should be sent home immediately because he was worried Shackleton was going to win over Scott's eye. And then he basically convinced Scott to write Shackleton had to be sent home, and tension between the two started.
Well, that's a
Very
fact. There is an interesting. There's something to that because
Oh yeah, everything I said was a fact. I'm citing sources, dude.
yeah, no, Shackleton was sent back early. The mainstream narrative is that he had terrible scurvy and had to walk just barely. He could no longer manhaul. By the way, also talk about you guys trying to beat fag allegations. You do stuff. Your main thing is called manhauling. Come on, man.
Take it easy.
That's the true story the Jamaican bobsled team was based off of.
Manhauling. Yeah. Yeah, so
just some other fun side things that happened during this.
Yeah, sure.
There were naked piano sweat bath concerts they did.
Yes, there were.
Huddle for hosts. Yeah, so we should throw that out there. And then
they did a minstrel show. Let's not forget about the minstrel show.
Absolutely, and that and Joyce's porn postcards being confiscated led to a mini mutiny, where they had to be like, "We'll let you see the porn and have the minstrel shows."
I didn't hear that fucking anecdote. Is that they had filthy postcards?
Yep, a guy named
Put down the penguin liver wine. We'll give you whatever you want. Just don't smash it. Didn't they have a dog? Their meanest sled dog.
Their meanest dog was named the predictable black name. It was the same name as the dog from the Dam Busters. We'll say that.
Oh, Demetrius or something?
Yeah. Tyrone, I think.
As they say.
Yeah,
some jokes just sound
but
better
it should be said that it's actually an incredibly common British military tradition to have a black dog and name it the N-word. Let's just put that up there.
One fact where
horses.
You don't beat the gay allegations is Scott required every officer to take handwriting practice classes every day because he believed good penmanship would impress the admirals more.
I mean, he's probably right about that because
writing well than good science, he said.
Well, I mean, the fact is that a lot of their science was bullshit. It was all like hunches that they were going off of, and basically it was all valuable though. But by virtue of the fact, hear me out. It was valuable of the virtue of the fact that nobody else had fucking been there. So anything that they could write down was new data to consume, essentially.
Except for the fact that they did all their weather ratings within the range of their own chimney.
Yes,
so
I know.
The readings were accurate.
They specifically in the Discovery. They actually didn't even have thermometers that could go below 10 below zero. So it would just all of the readings were just 10 below zero, 10 below zero, 10 below zero.
It's fucking cold. It's still fucking cold. It feels like it's fucking colder than it says.
Yeah.
Oh no, the wind's blowing. Now it's so cold.
Somebody should come up with a term where it's technically the same degrees, but it feels worse because the wind's blowing.
Yeah. So we should say though is that as you said before, Roald Amundsen. What's up?
The temperature. By the way, yeah, they're using like mercury thermometers, which like cap out at negative 20 or 30 or so. But
right,
I think we should, for folks who may not think about Antarctica enough, it's like what, negative 50 regularly, negative.
I was just gonna say that. Is like, so they're wintering through this. This is the only way you can really accomplish it. And this was that first joint voyage that Bobby was just talking about with Roald Amundsen in it. That was the beginning of that era, which was then you winter there, and then as soon as it starts to break, the winter starts to break, you go. So that way you have maximum amount of time in order to get back before the winter comes again, and you're all dead. But this would require them to stay there for a fucking entire year, and it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years at a time.
Yeah, and at that point, the temperature is just like a series of frowny faces that just get sadder and sadder and redder and redder.
Yeah.
Like when you leave a bathroom, like how was the quality of the restroom? It's like very
Frowny
bad,
face. Like very
very
bad.
frowny. And these guys they're not they don't have shelter, for most of the time that they're,
They built huts. They built one for
yeah.
during the winter time. They have a house. They built one house that they all kind of lived in. And the fact that they're all in it at all times and had fires going in at all times meant that it was just cold, essentially.
That's not bad.
And also, I think they
It's New
discovered
England.
too, no pun intended, is that that it was actually much more comfortable to just stay on the ship.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of people did that. And it depended on what group you were in, because like with the original Discovery, it was kind of strict, like military. But
Right.
then when Shackleton got home, he raised the funds to send his own crew, where he was like, "We're gonna have fun, even though
Yeah.
it's cold," which is the famous last words of every British explorer.
Of course, of course. That was the voyage of the Nimrod, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Hey, now.
Which is just spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also there's the fucking biblical allusion as well, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, Gilgamesh is Nimrod, right?
Now we're crossing wires. I'm not sure about.
I'm pretty sure Gilgamesh is also Nimrod, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Gilgamesh is awesome.
Yeah, inspired by potentially
Okay, so yes.
according to the angels.
But yeah, interesting because they say Nimrod was a Nephilim.
Oh, that would make sense.
Mm.
If they're taking it to the Agartha, obviously they're taking a ship voyage to Agartha. Obviously, we're gonna name the ship Nimrod.
Yeah, just to be like, welcome home. That makes sense.
It's a jump to Agartha, Matt.
You jump to different fictional fucking conclusions, like flat Earth.
They also, it's important, on the Nimrod had a guy named Aeneas. Aeneas.
Interesting. Interesting.
That's so
Which is
good.
like, you're just asking for something bad to happen. The only reason I know that is he lost an eye because he got polar blindness.
Oh,
The way to treat polar blindness at the time was to put
the eye out.
No, before that, they
Slow
would
down,
try.
Scott.
They had powdered cocaine
Hell
that they
yeah.
would put into
Slow
your
down.
eye to numb it, and then they had some drops that they thought would make you like blink it out, and basically you would just get high as fuck for a day.
And then lose your eye.
Yep. But you would go down swinging, you know.
Nice. Well, you also get to look cool. You get to look like Snake Plissken for the rest of your life as well as a bonus.
What's the rest of your life? What's that? A week?
Oh,
That
you're
or Dan
propeller
French
hero at that
expedition.
point. I guess you can go around telling everybody you went to the fucking South Pole.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. We know Aeneas. We know. I heard you lost
We've
your eye
heard.
to cocaine, not even a fucking Cyclops, you pussy.
My other eye is up my nose.
A polar
Um,
bear took your eye. Yeah, right. Which no, there are.
Now, the one thing about Shackleton is he was more focused on science during the
For
Nimrod.
sure.
And one of the cool things I thought was they were able to build a seismograph out of tin cans and piano wire. to
Nice. They
measure
invented a
tremors
lot
on
of
the
stuff on
ice.
this
Yeah.
voyage. They invented a fucking seal blubber stove.
Yeah.
A portable stove that you could just scoop like a little quarter cup of seal blubber, and it would not only provide light, but it would be like something of a warming. Like it was built out so it would like fill up with warm air and fucking keep you warm in your tent or whatever.
Amazing. Big oil doesn't want you to know about seal blubber.
Yeah, that's
don't want
true.
us-
Yeah.
Frankly, it would go the way of the bison. We should not harness the absolute capacity of the seal because it would be
Right.
a massacre. We would destroy them.
I am Shiva, destroyer of seals.
A clubber of seals.
Clubber of seals, yeah.
Um,
No, by the way, I also should say this is that the actual first people who set foot on Antarctica were likely fucking sealers, actually. But the fact is that they didn't want to tell anybody about it because that would just mean other people would come and find their spot to get seals.
Exactly. They knew how to keep their goddamn mouth shut.
Yeah.
don't tell anybody the ends of the earth is prime seal hunting.
Seal
territory.
clubbing of territory, yeah.
Yeah, let's float 1,300 miles to go club a seal across the head.
Well, it
One
was for
other
the
thing,
furs, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, well, hey,
one other thing Shackleton did.
stay warm.
The first thing he did when he got there, he found it of utmost priority to build an alcohol still so they could have
Smart
medical
man.
brandy for everybody.
Absolutely.
And how'd that? Well, what did they make? What do you make brandy out of generally?
Ice.
Isn't it wine that you?
I
Ice
don't know,
wine.
man. What do I look like? A goddamn chemist?
Patrick,
I
you
look
want to
like
weigh in
P.
on this?
Diddy's
Where does
roommate?
brandy come from?
Do I look like P. Diddy's
Heaven.
roommate, Scott?
Yeah, right. You come past the Cavassier. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't drink brandy, ergo I know nothing about.
You seem like a
brand.
guy who would tell people he drinks brandy.
I heard she was a fine girl.
Fine girl. Damn.
What a good wife.
But
Great
yeah.
song.
So what
They
was I gonna
sang a
say?
lot of show tunes.
They did. They did. There was a lot of like odd evangelical liberal Christians on the voyage as well. And they were really into hymns, I'm guessing. Another thing was they were all like explicitly Darwinists, which I think is like
Yeah.
there was a big movement within like science in general where they all kind of got on page with Darwin essentially, which is funny because they even mention it in the book is that Lamarck was this guy who was like 60 years before Darwin, who basically came up with the idea of evolution. But for some reason, we all remember Darwin.
Because we remember Darwin because of his cousin Galton.
True. And also
Francis
he had
Galton.
sex with his other cousin.
A lot. It's
Damn.
weird he didn't see survival.
Well, he
of the
left his
fittest
first wife
happening
for
with
his
biological diversity. One of the core
So true,
principles.
actually.
Yeah, suck
What a
dick, Darwin.
hypocrite.
He
Pull a
liked her
Trump,
beak
Darwin.
better. Yeah, no, it's totally in mode with the kind of standards that they had already set for, the kind of guys they have on this crew. You have to have all your teeth in your head. You have to be,
Yeah.
scientifically minded, literate, right in a straight line.
You have to have like a Cecil Rhodes view of the British Empire, like kind of
It's
thing. Like
really perfect. It's the kind of flat. It's the kind of flattening of personality and ideology that allows these crews to get along, but also kind of keeps the mindsets. The mindsets don't allow for certain questions to be asked, like why can't we go over the ice wall? Yeah. If these guys are
they
all
do
Milner
go
guys,
not for nothing. They went over the fucking ice wall.
no,
They went
Specifically,
around.
that is the way they approach the South Pole every time.
Okay.
it's a
In your
shortcut.
opinion.
In my opinion, yes. In my opinion, that
What
is
is
what.
this? The
It is
Sandlot?
weird when you
Come
see
on,
the movie
guys.
Pocahontas and they get off the
Sure.
ship and everybody's singing and dancing. You're like, that's not how conquering was. It turns out that is how it was in Africa. They just like were all singing show tunes and had baby
Good.
bulldogs they were petting.
That makes that that's good news. I'm happy they didn't just come off the ship and start slashing faces off, man.
Well,
That's a good.
You probably would feel that way, Scott. You're not a Chad like me and Amundsen.
True.
There's shit to
true.
do. Now, while all this is happening,
Yeah.
Scott is like, what the fuck? That's the guy I sent home.
Right.
His thing's not going to happen. I'm going to go do this expedition where we're going to do lots of research. And he makes it clear along the way he's going to go to the South Pole.
Exactly.
But he has to
Oh,
sell
but we
it.
should mention though that fucking Shackleton makes it within 100 miles of the geographic South Pole.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Even though
so
he was just
it's
kind of
pretty
singing
fucking
and dancing
close.
along. Yeah.
He was singing and dancing. They're all holding hands and making pressed flowers and stuff, I'm assuming. And but
Picking
no,
each
they
other up by
it
the
was pretty
waist.
impressive though, is that they were able to the way they we didn't even talk about the fucking ponies. We didn't talk about the car. They brought a car.
yes,
they built a whole village basically at McMurdo Sound. And they brought ponies from Siberia. And
Who all did not last long.
yes, they tried with the dogs. The
jerky
dogs
did.
did not work well. No, I don't think they tried with the dogs.
They
It
did not
doesn't
try
matter.
with any dogs.
I'm sorry, yeah, because it
One
was
of the
Terra Nova
things
they
I
tried
kept a
with the
tally
dogs.
of each journey was dogs. And
Dogs
no
or no
to
dogs?
this point.
Yeah, no dogs during Nimrod. Yes, dogs in Terra Nova. But regardless of, but it's still impressive that they discovered a pass, which is I don't remember the name of the glacier, but it's the lowest point in the entire area surrounding what is known as the Antarctic Plateau, which is, as I said before, it's like the area where there's just a bunch of fucking ice, and then it goes towards the center. And the fact that they took this shortcut up by the Ross Sea from McMurdo Sound meant that this was the shortest possible distance that one could take from the coast to the South Pole. And the fact that they managed to find a pass up through this glacier and over meant that there was downhill literally the whole way back, all the way to the South Pole. And the incline, in fact, wasn't too bad either. It's actually just there at that lip of that glacier where it is actually hard. So what they did was they had a series of depots that they set up with fresh food for their return voyage, and they would expand on this on the Terra Nova voyage as well. By
Absolutely.
the way,
they kind of ripped off the game plan and modified a little bit
in like a blatant, ridiculously blatant way, I should add.
Yeah.
But I just think it's pretty interesting that they made it so fucking close. But worth mentioning though is that Shackleton,
that's what I was gonna say.
He did not have the quixotic desire to die doing this. No. So even though he knew it's only one more fucking day of walking, we gotta go back, guys. We can't make it. And they made it back to tell the tale.
Made it clear that that's why he made the decision. He was like, we would lose too many people. Even if somebody made it back to tell the tale, it wouldn't be all of us.
Yeah.
Which is honestly ridiculous in some extent. But if you truly went and you were under these guys that were there to do science and gather information, you're like, we did our part, pass the baton.
You know Plus, it was a record. It was furthest south ever in history.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is the name that we remember, or people know.
One of them, at least, yeah.
Yeah, he is remembered for the fact that he was so beloved by his crews, and that he was such
partially due to the 1914 to 1918 voyage, which we'll touch on later, by the
way. I think we kind of got past the point of Amundsen's his acceptance speech, his awards, where they just shit talk him the whole time.
The guy who brought him up. So you're talking about Lord, I want to say it's Lord Ashby or something.
Yeah, I think so.
That guy is the Milner dude. He is the fucking guy who is at the controls in setting up World War I, by the way. And he literally he introduces Roald Amundsen to tell everyone, to giving him a fucking award, by the way, from the Royal Society.
Amundsen already did not want to go. He had to be convinced,
coaxed into going. Yeah.
Yes.
And in his introduction to him accepting his award, he says, actually, I should be giving this award to Robert Scott, but here you go, I guess. Literally, that's the intro. It's nuts. It's insane that they would treat a guy like this.
What was that award for?
It was for him having been to the North Pole, I think.
To the North Pole? Because wasn't there something about his dogs? We should be honoring his dogs instead of him, or something along those lines.
Yeah, or maybe it was the Northwest Passage. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Just they hated this guy because he wasn't British, and he was better than them. He just played to win. They had this ego of science, and he was like, "Nah, I want to be first."
Well, also not just that, but he also had more flexibility. These guys were dedicated to they called it the noble art of man hauling.
Yeah,
it's not an art. It's fucking pulling things with the fucking rope. It's not an art. I'm sorry. No. It's one of the most grug activities you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, it's just literally who's can hold on and be the warmest the longest.
Yeah, and also not give up. Yeah, and not die. Not fall in a crack, by the way, with sheer luck.
Yeah, but it was definitely the Northwest Passage, not the North Pole.
Okay, yeah.
Because one of the reasons what he did next, as Scott's getting to Antarctica, Amundsen, one of the things he did was reach out to Franklin's widow and be like, "Hey, I'm going to the North Pole. If you give me a little money, we'll stop and look along the way, see what we can find." And so she helped fund his trip to the North Pole. As he's on his way.
Go ahead. I know what you're going to say next.
No,
he does the most troll thing possibly imaginable.
As he's on his way there, he hears, of course, that 2 Americans are in contest over who got to the North Pole first. So he stops at Greenland and goes, "Give me 100 dogs." Takes those and goes directly south. His brother's like, "Yeah, go for it."
Now, the funny thing is I believe the book sort of indicated that he had no intention of going to the North Pole at any point. This was all a ruse in order to get the money from the Franklin widow in
Yes.
order to then turn around and then beat the fucking British on the race to the South Pole.
And he did everything in his power to ensure he was going to win. He
Yeah,
did
he
not
didn't
care about
tell.
any.
He literally hid inside. He did that thing like when you haven't paid the rent and the landlord comes to the house and you pretend not to be home. He did that shit when Scott showed up at his house to be like, "Hey man, what's up? I'm in the neighborhood." and in order to not go face to face with this guy, so that when he got to the Falkland Islands, I believe, I don't know if it's the Falkland Islands specifically, but he
Which
then
Falkland Islands?
The British ones, not the Chilean ones, by the way. But he sent a telegram when he was almost in almost to Antarctica, saying, "Hey Scott, sorry about this, but I'm coming south. See you in a little bit." Like essentially was what the contents of the telegram were. And
If I don't see you, I'll wait for you for a minute.
yeah. Well, he
Yeah,
beat them to
exactly.
he beat them to the Ross Sea to the extent where I think they wanted to they weren't happy with McMurdo Sound. Even they were forced to go to McMurdo Sound and they'd wanted to go to this place called Whale Bay or something. Um or yeah, Whale Bay if I'm not mistaken, or Whale C, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. But fucking guess who's there first? Roald Amundsen is wintering already when they pull up in the Ross Sea.
Yep.
What's up, Doc?
At a position significantly closer than where they were planning to launch from, too.
Yes. So this place was a better option.
But
And also, McMurdo Sound is like a fairly battered by wind area. It's like right on the tip, the most tip of the fucking of the peninsula on which they board they disembarked. So
absolutely. Now, one thing I want to say, he didn't even tell his men until they were south of Madeira because he was afraid they were going to tell the newspapers. He was just like, "No, this is the way it's supposed to go." And they were like, "Isn't it getting warmer?" And he's like, "No, what are you talking about?"
yeah.
Aren't these Portuguese people? No, no, those are Inuits.
Dude, are you
Yes.
retarded? Stop drinking the penguin wine.
Drink more penguin wine. You're losing
Yeah,
your
drink some
mind.
more penguin wine while you're at it. Yeah.
Just to quote Amundsen real quick, I will not yield a single point to that plum pudding nation. Which, what a
That
spirit.
rules.
Plum
He,
pudding nation.
he said to Scott, "I beg to inform you that my Fram is proceeding to Antarctica. I will not risk being second."
Hell yeah.
That's pretty fucking troll,
Yeah,
honestly.
no one told Scott that he was in that this, was real, that the stakes are high.
In fact, I believe in that 4 hour documentary I was watching. I didn't finish it, but during the winter of which they were staying over there, they were like, "Hey, those Norwegian guys gonna come over and say something?" It's like that episode of Always Sunny when they both didn't want to go over to acknowledge each other or whatever,
Yeah,
and then they just
exactly.
look at each other across across the room.
So he, when the letter came, Scott's people were basically like, his
Ape shit.
officers were like, "This is a betrayal," and some of them were like, "It's actually pretty brilliant," but they all agreed it was a violation of gentlemanly conduct.
Yeah. Well, it's worth mentioning is that they only found this out after they had been there for months.
Yeah, but
And had been laying out depots for the inevitable voyage like while and then got back from that and found the letter like had it arrived.
Amundsen defended himself by saying, "Exploration is competition. I owe Britain nothing."
Mm.
So
Fine
it's
enough.
amazing they didn't attack Norway.
Take the plum pudding. Well,
Uh,
it's worth mentioning. I think the reason why they knew that he could get away with it is because the Norwegians were recently like independent due to the help of the British Empire from the Swedish Empire.
That makes
Essentially, they
sense.
did gay ops in order to to make them have an independent nation because they realized they had all of that oil. I'm guessing.
That makes sense.
yeah.
When Amundsen told his crew only one guy objected, Halmer Johansson, so they sent him home. All right, see ya. Good
That's
luck getting
easy.
back.
Later, Jomo.
Yeah, you're not welcome in our shelter.
It's Jover.
I was kidding. I was kidding. Slams the door. Jeez.
Yeah.
There's
So but it's worth mentioning is that this is the I forgot to mention that that winter where they're wintering the Terra Nova expedition. So that what's the guy's name? The gay guy who was the physician and also the ornithologist. Scott's buddy, his closest pal, Mitchell. I want to say his name was Wilson. Wilson had been on the Discovery, as you know, voyage, and when they went there, they went to this place called Croissant Bay, I believe. And that they discovered this was like the largest colony of emperor penguins. It to this day, I believe, is the largest colony of emperor penguins in the world. And they were like, "Oh my God, this is crazy," because they considered for whatever reason. Oh, I know why. They thought because this was they were so isolated. This animal, they've only seen them here in this one world. Ergo, they must be the most primitive bird possible because they don't have any intermingling or
Or
whatever with other
or
animals.
genetic competition. That's
Exactly.
It was their obsession with wingless flight.
Right.
Like,
Let's
why would these birds
cut 'em
develop
open.
wings and not be able to fly? Little did they know
Exactly,
it was
yeah.
for swimming.
So they
Uncharted
also
bird.
thought that because of this, they would be able to, if they were able to inspect the embryos of these birds, they would then be able to find the missing link between reptiles and birds.
Ooh, okay.
And so they were insistent on
then
trying to
what?
find the birds. But the problem was is that they found this Croissant Bay during the summer. Because you know it's kind of hard to fucking travel in Antarctica unless it's the summer. So Wilson goes, "That's it. When we come back, I gotta get here during the winter." So this guy named Evans, who was the second in command, if I'm not mistaken, and also this other guy named something with a B, don't remember, but he was this guy was definitely the twink on the voyage, but he was like the shortest and youngest, and they also always talked about how awesomely strong he was. So they brought him along for this gay little excursion to see the birds. And was what transpired is the most nightmarish series of events fucking possible, I think. And they spent 5 weeks in the dead of winter, meaning it's from between 60 and 40 degrees below zero. And also at one point, during one point, a hurricane passed over them.
Yeah,
Who-
they got the worst string of luck.
And they built an igloo, but the igloo's roof was made out of canvas tent.
And then melted by a fire tornado or whatever the hell else could possibly go wrong in this place.
No, it's just a regular old fucking hurricane ripped it
Holy
apart, and
that's funny.
they ended up having to just sleep with the fucking canvas pulled over their heads. Oh, we haven't even talked about their fucking sleeping arrangements, which are just insane. Well, they at night they
Butt
would
to
wear
nut.
these fur suits. Basically, all their like traveling were like literally Burberry brand, meaning that
Yeah.
these were the first chavs.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, it was this like gabardine, which is like basically, you know, the like khaki type stuff that is like a trench coat material. That's gabardine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like their day clothes is wearing that fucking. By the way, I can't even think of something that could get wet easier. Is
Yeah, and
that
just soak it in.
material?
Now, one thing Amundsen's crew actually did to combat this was they brought newspapers with them. One of the few things they brought, because they were notoriously packing light, was all these newspaper that they did everything they could to keep dry, and they would stuff it in their shoes, not for warmth, but to moisture wick, like the first pair of moisture wicking socks. So significantly less of his men lost their toes to
Interesting. Also,
frostbite.
the same premise as the jungle boots, the ones from the
Vortex.
Vietnam era. Yeah,
Yep. Yep. Where it like
same premise. Yeah.
so.
But yeah, also another thing was that if I'm not mistaken, the Amundsen voyage, they all just wore just fur. They just wore all fur essentially.
yeah.
Which
They
go
did a
figure,
lot of fur.
animals don't have jackets on. They just have fur. It's pretty
Yeah.
good. It's pretty good for keeping water off of you, standing
And
water at least.
Yeah, I don't see
What's
Inuits in pea coats. All right, sorry.
Yeah.
But
No.
yeah.
And as you get to like the overall picture, the British this whole time sold themselves as we're doing this scientifically, we're doing all this research along the way, we're doing it the right way. But if you actually break down how Amundsen went versus how Scott went to the pole,
He went native.
Amundsen did it so much more scientifically, though.
Oh,
Like,
that's true. Yeah.
because Scott's building depots, there's random spacing to it, like every 30-ish miles randomly. Some are 10, some are 30, some are 50.
Yeah.
Every 8 to 10 miles for Amundsen without missing a beat, he's setting up a depot.
Yeah, well,
Scott's whole crew's
just to
going
give
heavy.
Scott a little bit of credit, I believe his plan was to put them next to geographically distinct things so that they wouldn't lose them. However, this made the consistency of them suffer.
Exactly. And from
Yeah.
if you're looking at the goal is to get there, who's doing it more scientifically?
That's true.
It's Amundsen bringing dogs to pull your cart versus humans and heavy sledges.
Oh,
One's
right.
gonna
In the
be
Terra
faster.
Nova voyage, they tried to do the dogs, but the fact is that fucking Scott was so hot for fucking man hauling is
Yep.
that he wouldn't let the dogs just pull. He was like, no, we're going to have them wheel pull and the dogs will assist us.
And dogs won't do that.
They
It's
don't, yeah.
It's scientifically dogs will not pull with you. But then Scott's rationing his food based on size.
Yes.
Amundsen did the first caloric breakdown to see how many calories a day a person needed to eat and was actually
Wow.
rationing that way. So it's just
Yeah,
kind of funny
wow.
when the overarching thing is like Scott was all this scientist and Amundsen was just this reckless Chad. He was just good at exploring.
He was. And also another thing was he had the for lack of a better word, giga-chadity to be like, okay, these dogs have served their purpose. Time to eat them.
He ate
Yeah.
so many dogs.
Yeah.
Dog jerky.
The estimates are close to 100.
Nice.
It's
Nice.
enough to make a Chinaman cringe.
I was just
Well,
gonna say,
here's
I
the
mean,
thing. Why didn't China get there first? If the key to getting to the South Pole is
eating
the
dogs,
ability
yeah.
to eat dogs.
and might I add is that one of the key problems in Antarctica is like the blinding snow. I mean, they have a racial advantage to that already.
Absolutely.
Even the Eskimos, they have those
Squinty eyes.
yes, that. But even that's not enough where they have to wear these I guess shells over their eyes that have slits cut into them so that
So they
their
look
field of
extra
vision-
Chinese.
Yeah, so they're like
They're like the
ultra
Anthony
these.
Cumia Chinese glasses. Like, talking about.
Put that in the
but-
thumbnail.
No.
So
No, I
I
was
do
gonna
have-
say though, one of the other things I wanted to talk about was that voyage they went to go check on the so they tried to go to the penguins during the winter, and it took 5 weeks, and they did make it there, but they ended up only getting a couple completely dead frozen eggs. However, during this time period, again with this igloo with the roof collapsing and stuff, another thing that happened was the ice broke, and the thing that they were sleeping on floated away, and
Yeah.
then orcas were trying to fuck with them. Orcas were literally making noises under the ice to taunt them. And like bumping up on the bottom of the ice to try to like spook them and shit.
What noises were they making?
Well, they did know they were
Almost as
British, but I was just
white.
gonna say, somebody did die, got eaten by an orca, if I'm not mistaken, too, during this voyage.
I think his name was Jonah.
I guess it could have been.
I wasn't as familiar with this voyage. I apologize.
That's so funny.
Yeah, well, I'd recommend you check out the that Gino Samuel documentary. It's pretty fucking packed with info. But also it's interesting because it's concurrent to
Snowpacked.
the Amundsen. By the end of this, 3 months before 3 months before this, the Terra Nova was over, Amundsen was back in fucking in not in Norway, but he actually went to Brazil actually first.
Who doesn't?
He
He
said,
had some
"Bom
partying to
dia!
do.
I went to the South Pole."
Exactly. Now he did some other things too along the way that really helped. All of his men had to know how to ski. Like
Right.
they had to know how to do that. They had to know
Cross
how to
country
do.
skiing specifically.
Um, he basically, yeah, that was part of it. They had to be able to pace dogs with their skiing pace,
Right.
so that these dogs could run every day. They were covering ridiculous mileage, and then and the other thing that not a lot of people know is that he actually had an emergency one man contingency plan. It was in a document marked to be opened in the event of critical failure.
And
And
it
it
was
was
just
just
him, right?
that if the team suffered catastrophic loss of dogs or personnel, one man, and it was probably going to be him, would
Yes, let's
proceed
be
alone,
honest.
and then how they were going to get him back alive. Like he had a "you're not going to let me die here" plan. But thankfully, it
Nice.
didn't come to that. And when he arrived back, like you said, at the end of his journey, he had gained weight. All of his men weighed more than when they left.
Hell yeah.
Righteous. Because they were
Which
getting
is,
3 hots in a cot, dude.
Yeah, 3 hot dogs in a cot.
Yeah,
you're
3 hot
bored,
dogs in a cot. Yeah.
you're bored, eat some seal. You sick of seal, eat some penguin. Try mixing them together. See what it does for you. Yeah.
I guess another fun fact within that letter, they also found some of the dog fur from his famous favorite dog amongst the bunch that he
Mm.
labeled test material. Nobody really knows what the purpose of that was, but it seems like he wanted to run some tests on the fur.
Maybe he just wanted to. Maybe he just figured no one would throw it away if it's a test material, and he wanted like a memento of his favorite dog.
Maybe, or they're saying it was for fur. I like to think he got to the Nazi aliens and wanted to clone his dog.
True. Yeah.
I was,
Once you meet the Nazi aliens, I mean, there's only a few things they can do for you. One of them is human cloning, obviously, which is why there's in Antarctica what's the name of the fucking not Agartha, the other one,
Muswabia,
whatever, the
Hyperborea.
Hyperborea. Yeah, in Hyperborea there's everybody's Hitler.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally everybody's a genetic clone of
Everybody's
Hitler.
everybody's just hitting you with this just constantly. Um, do you think test material meant maybe that was the best tasting dog and he needed to understand
Taste
why?
material.
Yeah.
Taste.
It
He
was a
just
it
miswrote
was a
it.
typo. Yeah.
He wasn't doing the handwriting lessons of Scott's crew.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, to the Scott failures. Another thing that they discovered was they found fucking this was the things. For instance, they confirmed the mainstream theory that Antarctica was once part of a supercontinent that also incorporated Africa and Australia, based off of the fact that they were able to find sedimentary rock fossils that were an exact same plant as that were both found in southern Africa and in Australia slash like Indonesia and stuff. And ergo, there was contiguous examples of that plant over all three of those geographical areas at one time when the continents were in different places.
Interesting.
Incredible.
And this was,
Yeah.
by the way, this was a theory that people already had, of course, and they were like, "Yes, we did it. Yes, we
Mm.
confirmed our theory."
This is pretty, pardon the pun, seismic shifts in thinking for people who generally these wackadoo evangelicals who they think the world's literally 6,025
Yeah.
years old, but they have no real problem ultimately incorporating this
Yeah, well, I think the
knowledge.
interesting thing about the author of this book, by the way, he's a part of a Christian science, not Christian science, like Christian science, like Jesus Christ scientist, but like a science enjoyer religious like
Mm.
think tank, essentially.
Really?
Yeah, and so I think that's why he caught to this topic, by the way, is because there's a number of figures in this book who did like have like a weird, odd Enlightenment Christianity kind
Mm.
of like worldview, which I think probably comports with the authors, which is why he focused on it even briefly. But yeah, there's like this, like a lot of the most like ardent scientists in these stories were like weirdly religious dudes.
Mm.
And also, by the way, I
Because
should
of all the
mention,
gay stuff they were doing.
yeah,
There's a
that's the
direct
contradict, the
correlation between the
eternal.
two. No, no,
Well,
no.
true.
The more like you're feeling like, oh, this is wrong, the closer you're gonna be to God.
So true. Well, I also think it's worth mentioning though is that this is the same sort of not contradiction but weird quirk you see within someone like John D. Rockefeller, who was like an extremely devout evangelical Christian, but also is the guy who started the American Medical Association and insisted on everybody's medicine being like gets you fucked up as like the main thing that drugs are supposed to do, like essentially.
Yeah. It- it- People
Now
are complicated.
you did
Yeah,
mention
true.
the Scott expedition was a tragedy.
Of course,
Is
yeah.
that the route you want to go? Because there are
I
some
consider it a
other
tragedy. I was just gonna
there are
point
some
out
other
some of this,
theories.
but well, okay, yeah. Oh, I liked. You mentioned one earlier that I'm interested in, but I was gonna say is that it seems like one of the main fuck ups was that at the last minute it was supposed to be a 3-man voyage to the South Pole. And they ended up because Scott had like a crush on this young guy who was on the team, the youngest guy on the team, who is handsome and strong. They wanted to bring him. He wanted to bring him,
Is
and
that Bowers?
yes, Bertie Bowers. That's the guy who came on the Croissant excursion as well. By the way, but he
Twinkie Bird Bowers.
yeah, Twinkie Bird Bowers there.
No.
He came along because like Scott was like fucking like enamored with him essentially. And this fucked everything up food wise because now they all had to take 3/4 rations because they didn't think this through whatsoever. And they also were traversing land that none of them had been yet. This now remember Shackleton had gotten pretty far on the Antarctic plateau, but these guys had never even been down this far. They never made it over the glacier. So they don't realize just how treacherous the man hauling will be. And they also don't understand the fact that even if they had been with Shackleton last time, there could be different. I do want to mention.
Avalanches, different topography.
Well, I was just gonna say the fucking Discovery voyage was notably there was no blizzards the entire summer. Whereas when Scott and these guys went, this was like the fucking worst year ever. Not literally, because actually the Shackleton one coming up is actually the worst year
Pretty
ever.
bad,
But
yeah, pretty bad.
yeah, but a very bad year, a very no good, very bad year for traversing the Antarctic, and they were just totally outclassed by what the situation was. Oh, and I should also mention that this is 3 months after Amundsen has already gotten back. So how long exactly did Amundsen take for his entire voyage? It was 60 days, I want to say.
Something ridiculous like that.
Some
Yeah.
very it was 2 months essentially. He was 30 days there, 30 days back essentially.
Don't call him late
64
for
days, I
dinner.
want to say.
That's
Yeah,
for
that sounds
sure.
right.
Um, but regardless, and so consider the difference in weather we're talking about here. And the fact that it's just like, what the fuck were you thinking, man? Bringing an extra guy, like bringing a fourth wheel on the fucking, the human, the Lucky Pierre situation that they already were having. I'm assuming.
What was he thinking, Scott? What was this guy who
Again,
like
my theory is that he was
With
gay.
his dick.
now that's actually one of the theories is that Scott was murdered by Bowers and Wilson because
And what's the motive?
Wilson saw after Wilson and Bowers spent that romantic month under a tarp looking at the penguins together. They had become lovers of the night. And then Wilson saw how Scott looked at Bowers and was worried he was going to take him. So those two did the old kill the guy before he can ruin us thing.
I like this theory, however. I feel like as gay and dramatic as these people probably are slash were, I feel like they did have some sort of fealty to the mission over whatever the he looked at
Well,
my boyfriend kind of
the
level.
theory continues,
Okay,
Scott, if
please.
you'll allow, that he was frustrated. Scott was frustrated. They got beat, obviously,
Right.
and that he blamed partially how long their voyage to look at the penguins took for
Well,
part of the
that's
reason.
obviously not the case because it was
That
during the winter. They wouldn't have been.
I'm
It
just
wouldn't
telling
have
you
coincided.
what this fact was, and that he was threatening to out the romantic activities of everybody, and that for the reputations of everybody on the voyage, they killed him and they altered the journal entries.
Further yet, let me add a further bit of evidence to this. A direct quote from Mr. Scott. I cannot bless the beastly ass that gave the officers enough cigars to last the winter. Gay. Gay man.
I forgot about that. Is that everyone would smoke after dinner. And by the way, this would be me. This
Gay.
Scott would be that Scott. I'm being stuck in a fucking tiny ass cabin with nasty, stinky, stale cigars from
Breathe through your
years ago.
mouth.
Literally years ago, and obviously you can't crack a window because it's negative 46 outside.
I don't know, man.
Can't beat them. Join them, Scott. We have enough
No
for
way,
everybody.
man. That's stinky, stale cigars. You're just doing it to have something in your hand. By the way, speaking of fucking oral fixations being gay, by the way.
Damn. Fair enough. There was one quote that made me laugh so hard was I can't remember. Some guy fell into the water, and they asked him, "Are you okay?" It's like, "No, I lost my tobacco."
Yeah.
There was a
I mean, I feel like I will say, in his
Listen.
defense, I'll say that if you're living through like literal hell on Earth, like being in the Antarctica, any sort of creature comfort does become fairly precious to you.
exactly. Hence, right now, yeah, we're all in our personal hell. I think everyone should take the time to have a cigar. But
Well,
Scott,
then you put all the people around you through personal hell, having to smell you, and
well, luckily I brought enough for everyone.
oh, good.
Yes, indeed.
Suffer and misery loves company, after all.
Listen,
Speaking of the gay penguin voyage, real quick,
Please,
I forgot to say
please.
this. Biologist George Levick documented the sexual behavior of the Adele penguins, which included necrophilia. And they hid that
I've
from
heard
the
that.
public until 2012 because it was too
man.
indecent.
It is pretty fairly indecent.
I mean,
Penguins, man. What do you think they do for fun?
Yeah, I mean, it's also like a place
Read.
again where there's like no competition, and it's like other than the exact, everyone looks exactly the same. I imagine it's similar to China.
You can't fly.
You can't fly. Everyone look exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly.
You're eating gross fish and weird shit.
If you break a tradition, the entire culture turns its back onto you and shuns you.
yeah, I could see it.
Show me the difference between Chinese and penguins, man.
Holy shit!
Chinese the penguins every once in a while show humanity.
True, true. Yeah, you're right. I was gonna say though is
the babies are cute.
This is where the famous research with the men are like penguin males are cucks, where they're the ones who sit on the eggs. If I'm not mistaken, the male is the one. And further,
we send a bunch of Nancy boys down, and that's the conclusion they come to.
Well, it is to be fair, it is the mainstream, I believe, view on it today still. But I was just gonna say though is the other thing is that the desire to have reproduced is so strong that even unmated males who don't, they will scramble to find eggs of other people that have been abandoned to try to raise another like coupling's egg. It's literally they cuck themselves. Like literally.
What's the other penguin doing that's supposed to be sitting on that? What?
Well, usually they're dead.
Collecting
is he out
welfare.
playing like 2K?
I was gonna say,
He's meeting another penguin in a parking lot with a box of sneakers and $60.
Yes. Or he in jail, or he dead, maybe.
He went to get a pack of cigarettes.
Ricky, no. He went to go get some cornmeal.
But yeah, so I think that's interesting is that this was like where all that, it's really just crazy. All this stuff we take for granted in like the sort of scientific canon that we like, all that crap they taught, all that bullshit, useless information they taught us in elementary school through high school in science class. It's like, oh, it's pretty much all from this voyage. Like,
One voyage,
like,
yeah, that everybody looks at as the loser.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he didn't make it in time. And by the way, you sort of alluded to it earlier, but I do want to put a fine point on it here is that they found out within like a couple days of actually getting to the North Pole, they found the fucking like the remnants of Amundsen's camp and said, "Fuck!"
Yeah,
Like,
he left them a
fuck!
note, was like, "Enjoy 90 degrees. Here's some food.
Yeah.
Suck my dick."
Yeah.
They knew it was his camp because it had a bunch of like fish heads everywhere and like a lederhosen.
Dead dogs. Yeah.
Dead dogs, lederhosen, and whatever those people, I don't know, leave as rubbish.
Burnt churches.
What do they do?
Norwegians, yeah, they burn churches. They
nibble on chalk. What do? They
eat rotten fish.
They eat bark or something. Who knows? They make
They grow out
wine.
of rocks. Yeah, they turn when they die. They don't die. They actually just turn into trees, like David the gnome.
Then they make the trees into wine. But yeah, that is one of the biggest, swiftest kicks in the nuts.
Yeah.
Right
And
there.
arguably, I think this is like a mainstream take too. Is like after this point, like basically Scott, like his raison d'etre had been finished essentially, and he basically resigned himself to death, arguably, but not so because he did some of his best research on that return trip, and in fact dedicated 40 or 50 pounds of towage to geological samples and including a bunch of fucking fossils, like including the ones that I just said proved that that the animal the fauna was or the flora rather was contiguous between Africa and the supercontinent, exactly.
Yeah, I think he totally underestimated just how bigoted the English could be towards someone from Norway. They were gonna give Scott props anyways, no matter what. Poor guy. Even though he was a winner.
One of the conspiracy theories is that Scott's death was done on purpose. Like he knew that he had been beat, so if he died along the journey, he could become a martyr. And if you look at his journal entries after he finds out that he got beat, there's a lot of references to stoicism. He starts using sacrificial imagery, references to imperial virtue. He says things like his companions and him did a death pact.
Well, I was just gonna say I have some receipts on this because in his last message, it is a plea to the government to take care of his family, first of all. So it's almost reads like a suicide note. And also it's a big speech that he wrote to the public essentially and was read at his funeral, I should mention. Oh, he died. I forgot to mention. Yeah, he died. I don't know if we mentioned that, but
COVID.
Yeah, no. It's also worth saying is that they handed out lethal doses of opium to each party member, and before I mentioned before, there's 4 guys on the trip, but 3 were found, and nobody ever found the corpse of the first guy who scampered off into the night.
He was the one who basically realized he was going to die, so he tried to give him a shot. And they wouldn't let him kill himself, so he's like, "I'll go for a walk."
Well, they wanted him to do that, though.
No,
like,
and they even wrote in the note how like he was a true man of English character that did the right thing and all that stuff. Do you think they ate him?
Well, I think they had food at that point. The food wasn't the issue. It was that they couldn't move because of the storm.
I like that they ate him.
They could have eaten him.
Soil Scott's name.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they never found the body, so
they probably fucked it first.
knowing those penguin ass motherfuckers.
Exactly. Look to the penguin.
Yeah.
God,
crows would never.
It's natural.
Crows would never do that.
Crows would never do that. That's true.
Absolutely.
But I was gonna say though is yes, there's some definite possibility to the idea that they all did a suicide pact. Um, given that regardless, I think Patrick sort of alluded to this anyway just a second ago, but yeah, they were gonna give him props no matter what. They were gonna say fuck this Norwegian fuck. We're calling it for our guy, even though the amount of time elapsed made it to the point, made it so that there was no way, there was no question as to who got there first. But when they got back, essentially the British, like like media and like the government basically were taking victory laps for being like, well, I mean, sure, Amundsen got there first, but what did he even really accomplish?
He's not even white.
Yeah, he's Norwegian. He's not even a true Anglo-Saxon white person. But they also they poo-pooed him by saying like, oh, he didn't do any fucking science, which is what we really set out to do.
Shut up. Gay.
No,
Who cares?
Amundsen kind of knew this was going to occur by this point.
Yes.
Because of, like you guys pointed out, the whole thing about his dogs deserve the award over him, all that stuff. So he did what I like to call the first PR move in history, which is he picked up somebody in Brazil, a New Zealand journalist, I believe, and had her write the entire story for him in colorful, flowery language, so that by the time he got to England, he had like, nope, this is what I did.
Here's the receipts.
It was basically like a comic book edition of his story versus the very scientific details they would get.
I bet you can't even read, so I made it so you can see pictures.
You see where it says pow and kapow? Bang.
I made it nice and long. I know you like extra details and to make it take longer along the way.
Yeah, for sure.
A real PR move would have been not having a Brazilian write it, but
someone from New Zealand he picked up in Brazil, to be fair.
Oh, okay.
So it was at least in the Queen's language.
Who spoke Puerto Rican, but sorry,
New Yorican, I think he means to say.
He was like out there and shit. He went to
snap.
Why come he's not an Englishman, so he don't get the credit?
Why come it's so cold?
But yeah, so what was I gonna say? So now to put a bow on this was my hot take by the end, is that Winston Churchill, no less than Winston Churchill, one of the most controlled fucking entities in the entire British Foreign Office.
First discovered amongst the pack of seals. Is that what you were
clearly?
say?
I mean, he looks like a walrus, so
Piece
yeah.
But
no, he himself made a speech at Scott's funeral, or maybe he didn't make. Maybe this wasn't at his funeral, but in an op-ed, in order to encourage British men to fight and die in World War I, pointed to Scott as an inspirational source of what a true British man would be like. And so, of course, they wouldn't dare miss an opportunity to fucking use this propaganda. Even if they lost, they even still found a way to utilize the propaganda in order to get this brother war cooking.
Every clown has a shekel lining.
So true.
No. I was gonna say what's crazy is he then turned around to the Norwegians and used Amundsen as an example and was like, "We need you to fight because of him and his spirit."
These dirty Mongol Norwegians,
very good at offering things to both sides at the time.
It's true. It's duplicitous. But yeah, so however, interestingly, even though World War I was obviously a pressing matter, they let Shackleton go again. And which by the way, he learned his fucking lesson, I'll say that.
Die if you want to, Shackleton. It's on you, man.
So yeah, no, 1914 he went on the Endurance, very ironically named, I guess, or aptly named, if you will, voyage, which was the attempt was to circumnavigate the entire continent of Antarctica. And the way he was going to accomplish this was to have a second ship go to the other side of Antarctica with a ton of food and supplies and whatnot, and build a winter camp as well there, and then meet sort of in the middle somewhere. And unfortunately, however, he didn't even make it to Antarctica.
Nope. Real quick, I wanna this before it passes. He took something like 5,000 applications for this voyage, which I heard that in one place. I don't know,
Yeah.
but the fact that in the actual ad in itself was very funny. It was something like low wages, odds of return unlikely,
Yeah.
hard work, low wages, you'll likely die, glory and fame if upon return, if you do.
Guaranteed. Yeah.
Yeah. So he sifted through quite a wide yeah,
Pool of
group.
applicants, right?
Sure, yeah. And it worked out. I mean, we'll get
Did it? I mean, it did. I mean,
Yeah.
it did.
It
Yes
did.
and no, but they should have just not went, I guess. Although, how do you know?
The way I think of it is,
How do you know? Look at everything the British did in Antarctica, Scott, and just go, you know
Yeah.
what? This isn't for our people. We're not.
I don't
built
know
for
that
this.
they could have predicted that this specific happened. Although I guess when they went to South Georgia Island, which is the southernmost island before before you get to the Antarctic Circle, the sealers there were like, "Bro, you might not want to go this year."
Yeah.
And
They're
but
like,
the
"Wait,
problem
how
was,
do you know about this?" They're like, "We've been doing this for years, dude."
yeah. But also, I mean, just even in the area, they know because there's been bad storms. They know there's been like really rough weather, rough, seas. But the
Doppler
problem
is
was
off the hook.
this is 1914, and they barely were able to even go on this fucking voyage, given that the war's on. So Shackleton's like, well, shit, I'm not gonna not go. This is my last chance at glory or
He
whatever.
packed my bag.
And yeah, he goes, and they didn't even make it. They get taken off course away from the Ross Sea where they were trying to put in, and the Weddell Sea. So you're right. That was the other side of. They actually were trying to come from the north and get to McMurdo Sound. That was the plan, and so they didn't even make it there. They end up getting off course and then frozen in ice for 2 years.
Yeah.
They lived in the ice for 2 fucking years. After 2 years, the ship exploded into splinters, and they were forced to go onto life rafts and paddle 900 miles to the nearest rock.
Yep. Now,
and then the fun starts.
Along the way, you might go, well, what did they do to keep their morale up? Well, Shackleton enforced what he called optimism hour, which was 1 hour every day where people had to be optimistic for that hour. Which is just a last hurrah. Like, fuck, I don't know, guys. We're going to try being happy for an hour.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that sounds like a way you placate children.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, kids, we're going to have happy hour. We're going to do happiness hour. No more crying and screaming.
It's like opposite day, basically. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Everybody was just very sarcastic for an hour. The other guy who's super important to know, and I think this might be what you were talking about earlier, Patrick, is a gentleman named Hurley, who, when the ice pressurized, destroyed the hull, dove into the frigid waters to save the photographic records. He dove in, and he actually went on to be the namesake for the Hurley surfing brand, which is a bunch of wetsuits to keep you warm.
No
and
shit,
dry.
is that true?
Yeah, it was their way of paying a nod.
Sick.
Interesting.
They claim that. Who knows if that's actually what they did?
What else would it be?
Nike does whatever they
Somebody's
can.
coke dealer is a real name.
They're like, we gotta give something to white people. Give them the Hurleys.
Give them the fucking shitty. What's that
Flat
store
brimmed
that
hats.
they what's that PacSun brand?
PacSun brand. Yep, exactly.
But
Pac
yeah,
Sun
so
gift card.
okay, so get this. So they land on this, they go, I don't know, I think it was 200 miles at first, right? And then they get to the first rock available. And then they go, okay, the chances of us surviving, this is a rock at least, so we can at least build our fucking tents. This is before they were like living on literal ice, and which was like moving all the time. It was very dangerous, and something they were always at risk of it floating away. So now they're on a rock, and they can accessibly eat unlimited seals. This party's off the hook. We have unlimited seals.
SEAL
Um,
Team 6 over here.
yeah, I guess so. So they're able to eat a little bit, and but so they're like the only way we can survive. And by the way, they're at if a storm or something like that comes, they're dead. It's just tents on a rock. There's no survival. And by the way, it's not quite Antarctica, but it's very fucking cold. It's like negative 20 degrees, and they're using their seal blubber stoves to their maximum extent, and it ain't good.
The only thing worse than dying in Antarctica is dying on the island closest to Antarctica.
That's true, yeah.
That's
and
the
not
worst
having
way to
gone,
go.
yeah.
Exactly.
So, and by the way, I also should mention that again. I want to just not want you to stress this: 2 years in the ice, living, and you the same 40 guys. They had to fuck, right? Like,
Come on. No, Scott. No, they didn't. All right.
I mean, they're also gay because they're British sailors.
But then you could play cards. You could
I
read your
guess.
favorite.
What if the cards froze, man? It's like a cartoon.
Let's also talk about how cold it is. Like,
God, no.
You don't want your dick out.
You want
in
to
that
bundle
cold.
up. You want, well, I
Yeah.
don't know. You do want to maybe cuddle at least a little bit.
And I guess if you cuddle, it's going to lead from one thing to another.
Yeah,
Pull your
spooning leads to
scarf
forking, as they say.
In the Navy.
But yeah, I should
Literally,
mention that they did definitely spoon all the time. It was particularly
how
on
they
that gay on that
Butts to nuts.
the penguin voyage. Oh, I forgot to mention one of the details that I loved about that was it would take sometimes half an hour to get into their sleeping bags because at night the water that was on them when they got in would freeze. Well, when they were in it, it would defrost the sleeping bag. And they were basically inundated with water. And then for about 3 or 4 hours of the first, once they got in the sleeping bag, it was just freezing cold water enveloping them until their body temperature got it up to maybe room temperature, I guess. And then, so then they would struggle through sleeping, not essentially, just essentially weren't sleeping because there's no sleeping when it's that cold. And then in the morning, they would purposely open up their sleeping bags so it would like be like a ghost was in it. You know what I mean? Like, so that because if they didn't, it would freeze shut, and then they would have to spend even longer opening, like laying on top of it and warming it up just to get it open. So they would leave their fucking sleeping bags open and like I said, like a ghost in it, so they could sort of slip into it.
Like
Jim, I forgot to leave my sleeping bag open. Can I cuddle with you?
Well, they had to cuddle anyway. It wasn't enough to just be in a sleeping bag. It's amazing. I can't even believe these guys lived
in an igloo, just going, I'm gonna die. I'd rather die. Get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, I would probably just jump. I don't know. It probably sucks so bad to freeze to death too.
Oh, absolutely. There's that blissful moment.
Yeah, but the big lead up to it seems terrible.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's the way I would want to go. I'm just saying at least you get one blissful moment.
I suppose.
It must be hitting your head on stuff until you're done, you know? Just walking around camp finding things to hit your head on until you die.
Well, I think at some point your brain starts to go into like shock.
That's bliss, right?
Yeah,
That's bliss.
sure. Why not? You know, like when you cut your hand, you look at it and it doesn't hurt for like 10 seconds.
That's that's because you're numb because it's negative 80 degrees.
I think probably the best way you could hope to go is that as a guy was fucking you, he would choke you and he just wouldn't let go. You know what I mean? Like,
freeze around your neck.
You could just choke me without the gay part.
Well, you got to convince him somehow, Scott.
True, great point.
He's been watching those penguins fuck dead bodies all day.
True, yep.
Sorry.
When you're right, you're right.
It always goes to necrophilia in Antarctica.
The penguins, yeah, man.
Listen, if you kill me, you can do whatever you want.
Sure. Thanks for that. I'm glad to hear that.
Isn't that what?
And I'm glad you
meant
think that the ethical boundary I have is killing you. Like, oh, well, once I killed him, now we got to respect his wishes.
Yeah, true. I mean, it is a little ironic to suddenly having morals when it comes to that.
No. You can get me for the murder, not the necrophilia. He said it was okay. Look, I have his consent.
His enthusiastic consent. No. I was gonna say is but anyway, they got to that rock, and then basically most of the guys are like, we're dead. We're gonna die here essentially.
I'm dead
and
right
Shackleton says, me and 3 guys are gonna go ahead, and this was a 900-mile voyage in a fucking rowboat.
Yep.
And they made it, though. They made it to South Georgia Island, and they were actually, the worst part too is South Georgia Island is like fairly large, and the place that they were trying to get to was the opposite side of the island that they had gotten to, and so they had to paddle around the fucking perimeter of the island for another day once they had arrived there before they got to come in. And best part was they all look obviously like shit, and even though they had just been there a few months, 2 years ago, 2+ years ago, but you know, in terms of experience, not long. But the guy didn't recognize him. The guy who had shaken his hand to say, "Hey, good luck," 2 some odd years ago, was like, "Who the fuck is this freak?" Geez, Shackleton.
Dude,
and yeah, so
up?
they quickly sent a ship down there to rescue all those guys. Imagine that ride back. When the ship picks you up and you've been sitting on the rock for weeks waiting for your fucking dingbat boss to come save your ass.
Now, one unsung hero of this journey, and this comes from Leonard Hussey, the meteorologist's unpublished diary. So it's in the archives, but it hasn't been put out there, was Mrs. Chippy. Do you guys know who that was?
I don't know who Mrs. Chippy is.
She was a cat that the crew had that could walk perfectly straight across the ice. So the meteorologist would use her to find pressure ridges of where the ice would collapse because she would avoid those areas. And she basically was like their minefield sweeper or their avalanche cat that they use, just using nature. It's kind of crazy.
God bless
like
you.
How
Mrs.
many
Chippy.
lives do you think Mrs. Chippy saved?
40, at least.
Okay.
Right? It was like 46 guys.
And maybe 1 to 2 more after they ate her.
I don't think they ate
They
her.
didn't eat Mrs. Chippy. Please.
They ate
Don't
all
put
the
that out
dogs.
there, Patrick.
They ate
Don't
all
do
the
that to
dogs.
me.
They ate the cat.
The British didn't eat the dogs. Actually, yeah, they did. I think.
What are you
They were
talking about?
starving. Yeah, they
That was
starved.
actually why the one trip didn't go well because the guy couldn't digest it properly.
Poor thing. Delicate sensibilities.
But no reports of them eating cats. I mean, what are
no,
they, Chinese?
am I wrong? Because I could have sworn this was the cook's cat or the doctor's cat, and he was.
They
pissy
ate
about
a
it.
cat. Don't remind me. They ate a cat. Yes, they were
Listen.
starving.
I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. Sorry.
The song's about jacking off, by the way. Man, this has been a lewd episode.
We've had a great
I mean, we're
episode.
talking about the British Navy, so I mean, what do you want to say?
Yeah, that's brilliant. The fact that they're using a cat to, plot
It also
out.
seems like a semi-true anecdote, by the way. Also, is they just like the cat. They wanted to ascribe some sort of mystical qualities to the cat.
I'm not gonna lie, it does feel like they were trying to make themselves feel better about eating Mrs. Chippy. They're like,
Yeah,
what if we give her a
I-
hero send off?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
See you in Valhalla, Mrs. Chippy.
Speaking of Valhalla, is it time, Scott?
Eat you in Valhalla. But anyway, so yeah,
Send him
but
to
basically,
Antarctica.
the next person essentially to master the Antarctic was Robert Byrd. And he did so not using any of the traditional, even dog sled was not his move. Although I do think he did some, but initially his voyage was by plane.
By plane. And just to tie the whole thing together, we did point out earlier, Amundsen was the first person to reach the North Pole.
Right.
And guess how he got there? By
plane?
airplane. Yeah, he chose at that
That's
point.
cheat mode.
Airship. He was like, I've done
He did
enough.
L1, R1, L1, R1, L1, L2, R1, R2, up, down, left, right.
Did he, or did he beat the game and get all the weapons at that point? You know what I mean? Like, he did do all the quests.
True.
He found the Northern Passage.
He leveled up quite a bit. Yeah, he grinded.
He lied to the widow.
Yeah, he grinded. Yes, that's true.
scat on her country's glory, all that fun stuff. But
Yeah,
Robert Byrd,
but no, but
World
Robert
War
Byrd,
II.
yeah, he was sort of like similar to Charles Lindbergh actually, in the sense that he was like a spook.
Yeah.
Which is to say that he was a promoter of aviation. Not that it needed promotion. It's probably one of the most useful fucking things possible, particularly at that time period. Exactly. But he was like on retainer by the military to like basically spread the idea of, he was like sort of like, what's that guy? Evil Knievel, but like more manageable things. And the first thing he did was he wanted to fly all the way over Antarctica, and he did.
That was probably had something to do with inspiring people's sense of trust in aviation.
Planes, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets
So
to do his thing anyways. It's very easy to get these kinds of guys on board with whatever, you know, propaganda.
aim you have, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just what they do anyways.
He went crazy though because they left him like in a ran, and actually it was in this place called Safety Depot, which was actually established by Scott originally. And it was
Mm.
like it was in a like little ravine or something in like on the Antarctic plateau, and they left him there for like 3 months. Oh, he tried to overwinter on the Antarctic plateau. That was his new stunt essentially. And they listened to him go nuts by himself on the radio for like 3 months, because they didn't realize that his stove was leaking carbon monoxide. So he was like getting delirious while he was sitting out alone already. So imagine how fucked up it was. It already must be to spend an entire winter alone by yourself in a cabin, and then add on delirium from carbon monoxide poisoning as well. They ended up saying, "Fuck it, let's go rescue him."
That's
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 not, yeah.
that's what your sources told you.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, what's the straight dope?
I
The real
don't know this
McCoy.
region you heard about. I heard he spent some time at Base 211 in a region called New Schwabenland.
Is
Okay.
this Operation High Jump?
A little bit, yeah. This is where it leads into. He flew a fleet down there. There were some flying saucers run by the Nazis, apparently. Are you familiar?
Oh, I've heard rumor, but
I
He
haven't been
flew-
myself, but
So for
what are
the
the
real
primary
story,
sources telling us?
So no, this is the real story. Basically, what happened was Robert Byrd was a real person. Everything you described happened.
Yeah.
About 20 years after his death, his nephew goes, "Hey, by the way, he wrote this journal. I don't know if you guys want to read this." And it was this story. And the story in the journal is he went for this flight. It was him and I think 4 or 5 other planes. They were attacked by these Nazi
Foo Fighters.
UFOs.
Yeah.
That had energy weapons, anti-gravity aircrafts, and advanced, all the stuff.
The
He
good
flies
stuff,
through.
yeah.
He eventually, like, instead of getting shot down, one of the things signals like "follow me," and it follows him. It gets to a lush forest that he describes as the Amazon like level of lushness.
So it's Hyperborea, yeah.
Hyperborea. Yep. He
Yeah.
lands, talks to this ancient race of aliens that is apparently Aryan. That's where the Aryan race came from. These aliens,
Right, and that's
that
also
have-
where the word alien obviously comes from.
I guess. Clearly, you know as much as I do, and that they've helped all the great empires throughout the ages, starting with the Romans, then the Vikings. That's where the idea of Valhalla came from.
And
all
they're
the way-
actually ancient astronauts from the planet Nibiru.
No, I didn't hear that. Okay, now I think you're just being preposterous.
Right, great point,
Everything up to
yeah.
this point I could buy into. No, but that was fun. It was obviously debunked, but it's
Yeah.
where a lot of the Hollow Earth
But
theory
question
goes
though,
to.
was it an authentic piece of fiction written by Robert Byrd, or was it his nephew's brainchild?
It was an authentic piece of fiction written by his nephew.
Okay, right. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Which is pretty sick that he was like, I could say my father or grandfather did anything. Let me just say he
Yeah.
met the Nazis and they were pretty cool. We troll
Yeah.
everybody.
I mean, not for nothing. Like there is a rich history of sort of history related to lost places that are remote. I mean, we did the whole Atlantis episode, Patrick and I, a few months ago. And, that's very intertwined with fucking ancient Aryans theory as well, by the way. So, I mean, it's like it's not like it's a crazy leap to even go to this place, particularly as it relates to somewhere so remote and uncheckable as Antarctica. Now, again, I don't want to now's my chance to I want to pull all of our flat earth listeners aside and say, I'm sorry for globing out tonight. But I got to tell you, a lot of these explanations for are pretty satisfying to me as far as the whole ecology and geology and stuff goes. Because the funny thing is, like, you read about that Ross voyage, which is where I got this idea that there's an ice wall. By the way, obviously there's the flat Earth Dave model of the flat Earth, which is like Antarctica is all the way around the edge, and the center of the Earth is North Pole, and that's happens just so happens to be the UN logo. I don't know if you ever noticed that before, Bobby, but that is the new UN logo.
Interesting.
Yeah. Um, but what was I gonna say is yeah, it's just oh, I forgot to mention too is that there's an anticyclonic constant um current going around outwards counterclockwise outwards from the Antarctic continent, which flies in the face of all other continental meteorology. In fact, they had to go down there and actually see it with their own eyes to even believe it.
How would you
Weird.
describe that for the visually impaired, Scott? Are
So
blind.
basically, in the ball Earth model, there's a counterclockwise whirlpool essentially going along the outside of the continent of Antarctica. Now, in the
Interesting.
flat Earth model, it would be like a whirlpool. The entire planet is a whirlpool within the ice wall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which
That,
explains, the Coriolis effect, et cetera, obviously.
that makes sense to me. Now, what you're saying, Scott, is that there's this thing that acts counterintuitively to all the other science and meteorology we know on the
Yes,
Earth.
it did stand
So
out
if
to me
if
as being
Robert
odd.
Byrd was saying that there were, lush green forests where he saw woolly mammoths, and that, you would think in the
Conan
middle
was
of all
there.
this ice that it would be cold, but he said it's warm. And we do know there are these dry patches on
Bird.
Antarctica.
Yeah, Jamie, come down, come to Hyperborea. Come,
What?
Robert Bird. We need to pump.
Put the penguin down.
All right, guys. What's happening there today?
They
Yeah,
have
that's
a
the
they have
Why
a
question.
don't we
Home
all
They
just
Depot.
go look for ourselves then, if we're allowed to go look?
Well, it's funny you mention that, Bobby. Actually, there was a flat Earth voyage to Antarctica last year in which they said um, the intent of it was to go to say, we're going to go here during the summer and prove that it's not 24-hour sun because that doesn't work with the flat Earth model that all the flat Earth people are working with. And the flat Earth believer went there and saw that there was 24-hour sun and said, "Welp, guys, I guess I was wrong. Let's go home." To which you'd think I mean, I guess you wouldn't think, but the flat Earth community then obviously took this with a lot of dignity, a lot of
Yeah, definitely didn't
candor.
accuse him of being bought out or anything.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
obviously the immediate fuck. He's live streamed for 24 hours straight and was like, "Yep, sun's still up, guys." I mean, fucking,
Look, I'm
This
not
guy's
here.
an alien.
I
they're
don't
like,
want to.
"No, he went to fucking Norway."
I could see that. No, and I'm not flat Earth. I'm not coming after you guys. I think a lot of times what the powers that be do is they put a narrative out there that's so ridiculous, people shoot down all conspiracy theories about it.
Yes, that is definitely the
I
case.
do think it's weird people aren't allowed to go to the South Pole whenever they want. I do think it's weird you're not allowed to, no country's allowed to build a base on Antarctica without everybody else agreeing to it.
That's the
kinda
Antarctic
weird.
Treaty, and that happened in the
Yeah.
Cold War, which has got a lot of fake aspects to it. The Cold War.
Yeah, it's almost like they know something we don't.
Hmm.
I like to
Um,
think it's Tesla coils. And
Yeah, it
that
could
they
be.
put
I
a
was also
pyramid
thinking
there,
there's a
infinite power.
very real possibility The reason you can't go down there is because there's like this like a lot of like oil or something.
Yeah. Let's be honest. That's
It's
probably
like a
what
bit
it is.
endless oil fields. Maybe is probably the real reason.
Somebody started to do the math. I was like, if they have sun 24 hours a day, we could put a bunch of solar panels here.
Yeah, but then you have the 3 months of no sun at all too.
Oh, darn. It's really going to be bad that we use that space.
But and I actually should mention too is that on the Terra Nova voyage, they did actually find like extremely rich coal seams.
Absolutely. They found that. What else did there was one other big scientific thing they found. I'm blanking on it now. Was it
Well, the
they
fossils,
climbed
the
one of the
fossils.
summits as well. They
Yeah, they
climbed
went to
one of the
Mount
mountains.
Erebus, and they actually that's where they did the core sample to find out that it was granite.
That's what it was.
And yeah, that's right.
Sorry. A lot of Antarctica here. We got through that
Yeah,
pretty
dude.
well.
I
Though.
mean, I've been all nothing but Antarctica for like fucking days now. So like
I've been
literally
dreaming about it.
a week and a half. I've been reading this fucking book. But yeah, so I think we covered the long and short of it essentially.
Absolutely. Norway's the best. They're the Chads.
Yeah,
England's a
shouts
bunch
out
of
Roald Amundsen.
yeah.
Unironically. Now I think we should end the episode. I usually let Patrick Patrick I think is peeing right now, but I usually let him do the like poetic sign off. But before we do to go to plugs, I thought we should I'm going to read this quote, which is inscribed on Robert Scott's epitaph as well. It was read at his funeral and was very much in keeping with the spirit of the times, which is a segment of Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And the quote is, though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved heaven and earth, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. That is a pretty good quote. I mean, you could just attribute that fully to Alfred Lord Tennyson, not for nothing, and not have anything to do with gay ass Robert Scott. But I thought
You
it was a
clearly
great
knew
quote,
a
and
good
it's
quote. Yeah.
yeah, and further, yeah, he himself said that too, by the way. But but also it's sort of like the quote that is most remembered in relation to him, and yeah, it's a hell of a fucking quote. And I would imagine that there's probably some overarching associations that he himself held where the we is probably the mighty British Empire or something, but you can pick whatever thing you want that to be, frankly.
It could be you
That's
and
the
your
beauty
people.
of art.
Yeah. It's up to
Mhm.
the viewer's interpretation.
And yeah, so Bobby, thank you again for joining us for another excellent episode. Is there anything you want to get to before we go to plug times?
No, I thank you so much for having me. It's always a blast. Um, I love Antarctica, so the fact that we got to talk about it together with the two of you guys was great. And as always, I say this every time, but just watching you guys grow is really fun. I like everything you're doing. Keep up the growth, and when you blow up, don't forget about me.
I will never forget about Bobby, but don't worry, you're the one who's gonna blow up before. Don't you forget about me,
Yeah.
pal.
Yeah. Come back for us,
Oh,
Ernest.
the team. We're going together.
But yeah, what do you want to plug? Obviously, at Bobby Tamburro across social media, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have some shows coming up. The 11th and 12th, I believe. I'll be in Altoona. The 20th.
That is of December.
Yeah.
December. Good.
The 9th or the 19th and 20th, I'll be at Dead Crow Comedy in Wilmington. That Sunday, I'll be in Charleston. Venue to be determined. But the real thing I want to plug, it's the thing I'm most proud of right now, is check out the Modern Day Man Show with Aaron Berg and Eastside Dave. If you're like me and Scott, I don't know about you, Patrick, an old Ron and Fez fan, it's the show I feel hits the closest to that. It's just silliness. You don't have to worry about the Russian dolls of podcasts talking about other podcasts, talking about other podcasts.
So
it's
true.
completely drama free. It's just an hour of laughs and a lot of fun production. Can't speak highly enough of it.
And Aaron Berg back to doing what he does best, which is
Making
hot
people
take.
laugh.
improv comedy.
Absolutely. Those two play so well together. Like I said, I'm not the only one who said it. Big A said it. It feels like old Ron and Fez. A couple of the old Ron and Fez fans in the comments feel that way. So give it a shot. It's something fresh.
Shouts out Modern Man podcast. So for us, www.history. Thank you, Bobby, by the way, again. And again, don't forget to follow Bobby across social media at Bobby Tamburro. Www.historyhomos.com for the RSS feed. We're also available on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, Rockfin, and most of them. Actually, I'm just not even going to say Rockfin anymore because I didn't even upload it this past week. They are a scam. So other than that, I said all those places, but most importantly, I want you to join. If you like this show, and you would like more of this show, please do not hesitate to go over to www.historyhomospod.substack.com, where you get one full 100% more show than you get with the free feed, because it's not one episode per week, it's 2 episodes per week, and they're full packed episodes. It's not just us going, oh man, dude, it was so lame when I was at the airport this weekend, and I had TSA pre-check, but this guy was in the way, and that's every podcast bonus content.
No, you get to hear fun stories about how me going to a Hindi Catholic mass, fun stuff like that. I never told you that story.
I was gonna say you're gonna have to tell me about it this week.
I went to a Catholic mass that was fully.
I will say this: is I went 50 miles to northern Massachusetts on a research study trip this past weekend for this by Honda Civic
sled.
Regardless, I man-hauled my Honda Civic all the way up to Harvard, Massachusetts this past weekend. And so it's a full show. So please, if you like this show and you want more show, please go to I may not be offering you a parasocial relationship where I'm lying to you and saying I'm someday going to be at the levers of power by an ascendant right-wing fucking movement. I simply go under the foolish proposition that I say, hey, let me make good content and maybe you'll pay for more of it. That's my offer to you, History Homos listeners. Join us at historyhomospod.substack.com for more of what you've already listened to and enjoyed. And at time of recording, still the friendliest place on the internet, t.me, that's Telegram, t.me/historyhomos is the channel, t.me/historyhomos chat is the chat. And if you can follow us across social media on Twitter and Instagram at Historyhomos pod, yes. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or you'd like to buy one of the dwindling supply of t-shirts, email me your size and address at historyhomos@gmail.com. Now, Patrick, I'm sorry I already cucked you by reading that quote from Ulysses, but do you have any other quotes that you'd like to, or anything you'd like to say before we just hit the dusty trail?
Yeah, sure. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's a quote from a movie I've never seen, never will want to watch, with Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins, where they're in the woods and they fight a bear. And Anthony Hopkins says, "What one man can do, another can do." And that's it.
Later, homos.